Is real quick, and I'll be right back.
All right. Well, we're live, so I'll chat to the folks. But today, my guest, the Batwolf, Stephen Ingram. And for those who don't know, he's a diagnosed narcissist and borderline, so he's comorbid. And like Dr. Salerno always shares, 60% of people that have one cluster B personality disorder also qualify for another. So it's not as uncommon if someone's a narcissist. 60% they can be antisocial, histrionic, or borderline. And earlier today, I was talking about this very topic because I had mentioned Johnny Depp. He had always had borderline male vibes to me because I'm someone I had met all of the criteria in the past for borderline before, and I just never got the diagnosis. But I also was high functioning on the spectrum, and I have a feeling since that was undiagnosed, it turned into something that looks similar to borderline. Was it in particular? Hard to say, impossible to know now, but that's how it went down for me. But when Mr. Batworth comes back here, we're going to talk to him about how he discovered all of this stuff here. If he was going to be how he found out he's a narcissist, how he found out he's a borderline, how he works out with his relationship, because I think she's got something like that going on too. That's got to be some fireworks, I'll tell you, because I had shared with him before. There's a book called The Narcissist and Borderline Couple. And that's probably pretty interesting, that book. I haven't read it. The other thing I've been listening to about borderlines recently is The Borderline Mother by Christine Ann Lawson. It's a book from, say, early 2000s, and she goes deep dive into all of these types of narcissist or borderline mothers, which is pretty interesting. But how did you discover that you're a narcissist and borderline? How did that diagnosis come about for you?
Okay, so back about 3 years ago, I guess it'd be a little bit over 3 years ago, I dated somebody that, dude, I'd never experienced anybody like that in my life. Like I was just like, what the fuck is this, dude? Like it was a weird deal, and I had never dated anyone like that before. And that girl, she ripped me to shreds, man. Like with just the whole situation and what came about from it. Um, I was a general manager at a store. I won't go into all the details on all that stuff, but I was a general manager. I got placed at this one particular store, and there was this woman there, and she was kind of eccentric and different and whatever else, but she was a lot younger than me. And at the time, I had a girlfriend. I'd been with this girlfriend for like 4 years, and the girl that I was with, or the woman that I was with, I need to quit calling these people girls and whatever, and just call them women, because the one I was with was in her 40s, and then the woman that I ended up dealing with, she was in her 20s, and I'm in my 40s. Um, so I ended up in a situation where I was with this woman for 4 years, and I never could get her to like open up and be a part of my life in a real way of any kind. And I say this on my channel a lot because people will say, like, how in the world uh, are you saying that narcissistic people will only mask up for you for 3 months, 6 months, whatever? I've been one. I've been with one for 10 years, right? And I'm like, well, it depends on how you react to these kind of people. So if you want to be love bombed for a very long period of time, and you want them to treat you really wacky and weird and love bomb, and just come after you for a long period of time, and get them to be on your side, and have them chasing you all the time. And what you have to do with one of them is you have to be their significant other, but you also have to be their mommy or their daddy and recreate their childhood for them.
Ah,
So if you want a narcissistic person, be it a borderline or a narcissist or anybody like that, to love bomb you and chase after you for a while, you have to recreate their childhood. And if you do, and if you're chasing, or if you cause them to chase you, then they will stay with you for a very long period of time.
You'd be giving them some ideas out there now,
Yeah, I'm telling
Mr.
you. But
Batwolf. You're
listen,
giving them some
you don't
ideas.
want these people chasing you.
No.
You don't want them love bombing you and chasing you for a long period of time, because all's going to end up happening is you're still going to get let down in the end. So I had been with this woman for almost 4 years, and I chased and chased and chased because she reminded me of my childhood, and I could never get validation from this person. I never could get what I needed from this person, and she was smart. you know, Honestly, because had I ever got what I wanted, I probably would not be the person I am today, and I probably wouldn't even be on your live right now.
Okay. Now,
Honestly,
did you have a narcissistic parent?
oh yeah, I had a narcissistic parents. My mother, I don't think was narcissistic. My mother, I think, because I don't have a lot of memories of her. She left when I was 5, and when I say she left, I mean she left me with my father when I was 5.
Mm.
Because I was with my mother uh, as long as I can remember in my earliest memories, all the way up till the time that I ended up being in a home with my father. And my father was very narcissistic. My mother, if I had to guess, based on the few memories that I have, and based on my knowledge and education and learning these disorders in the way that I have and the study I have of them, I would say that she was probably maybe a little schizophrenic, and maybe a little bit autistic,
Mm.
and maybe a little borderline. I don't know. I mean, I have very few memories of her to begin with, but just some of the behaviors and things that I do remember about her, it was probably like maybe a tripod of those particular things I just
That's a
mentioned.
lot.
Yeah. Oh, it is. And people, they don't understand that, man, these things are not black and white.
No. Now,
They're
this
not black and
woman you
white.
tell me about, though, so do you think she was narcissistic, borderline, this relationship? What do you
Well,
think she was?
I hate to try to pathologize or diagnose anyone, to be honest with you.
That's
Uh,
smart.
but I will. But I will. And if I had to guess what she was, this particular woman I was with, I would say she had some bordy in her, she had some borderline in her, and she had a lot of narcissism in her, and she had a lot of avoidant attachment style in her.
Okay.
Uh, but I was with her for 4 years. I never could catch her. I never could catch her. She never would commit. She never would. This kind of woman that, I mean, let me ask you a question, Jared. So if you dated someone for 3 or 4 years, how many times would you expect that person to have spent the night at your house?
You would think a lot by then.
You would think, right? But I was with her for almost 4 years, and I could probably count on two hands how many nights that woman ever spent in my house. Now,
Mm.
this is not to say that we didn't mess around and sleep together, and well, we never really slept together.
Never.
I mean, we we were together, but we weren't sleeping, if you know what I mean.
Really?
That happened plenty, but she very rarely ever slept in my house. She had a million excuses why she didn't want to stay there. Uh,
Uh, you know what you reminded me of here? If you ever read Robert Greene's The Art of Seduction, there
mhm.
is a coquette is one of the seductive types, and the seductive type
Mhm.
coquette, they're always a little bit out of reach. So whatever
Oh,
you
she was
do,
that. She
yeah,
was
they
that.
just never within your grasp, just like a hair. Like they'll let you catch
Mhm.
up a little bit, but then poof, they're gone again. It's similar to a shadow, I think, is the analogy he
Oh
uses.
yeah, for sure. I can see that. That's kind of how she was. I'll be honest, man. I mean, like honestly, I mean, maybe I never met anyone like her either, because I had never had to chase after somebody so damn hard as I did her. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier. I mean, like if you want them to chase you and you want them to really spend a lot of time trying to acquire you, then make them work for it. I tell people this all the time. Narcissistic people will you will teach them how to treat you. You will train them how you want to be treated, or how you're going to end up being treated. So if you're laying it down on the first date, telling them your whole life story, if you're giving them too much damn information, and I tell people not to do that all the time, because you shouldn't. You don't owe these people nothing. And a lot of times, narcissistic people, they're reading your metadata, they're putting files away in the back of their head for everything that they may use against you later or may not use against you later. And you absolutely don't owe people your life story. You don't owe them all the information. But back in those days, I was unaware and I didn't have the education I have on these things now. So I was an open book to a lot of people. So and I feel like that particular woman kind of took advantage of that. So I told her everything. And she absolutely was not going to commit to me. She absolutely was not going to let me catch her. And she used everything that I told her against me. And that's why I say, don't do it. Don't tell people. You don't owe anybody any of this information. Quit oversharing with these people, because a lot of these people are very calculated and very manipulative
Right.
in how they do things. So I wasted 4 years of my life, to be quite honest with you. I wasted 4 years of my life, but it led me here. So did I really waste it?
No,
I mean, I don't
that's
know.
what I was going to
I mean,
say.
so did I
That's what I
really
was going to
waste it?
say.
Maybe I learned. Maybe she taught me a whole lot of things. But when it comes to the how did I end up in this situation? How did I end up getting narcissistically mortified and end up in a collapse? I had already been beat down for almost 4 years by this particular person that I'm talking about. And then I was a general manager at this store, and my district manager decided that this one particular person would make a really good assistant manager. And this was this very eccentric young woman. Uh, I will not say she was beautiful or attractive or anything like that. Even if she was, I wouldn't say that
You won't give
because
her it. You won't give her that credit.
no, I will not. And not to mention, I have a beautiful, attractive, borderline female uh, girlfriend now that I've been with for almost 2 years, and she would kill me if
Mm.
I said anything
And that's
positive
something to
about.
go over later too here.
Yeah,
How that
about this.
dynamic goes.
Anyway, I'll say this: she was attractive enough. She was
There you go.
attractive enough.
Playing it safe.
Yeah, when you're getting beat down by another narcissistic type person to get me away from her. And I'd already tried for 4 years to get this person under control and get what I wanted from them. And you know what? I gotta say it. Good for her for not allowing me to ever catch her. Because if she did, it would not have worked
Then
out
you
for
would
her.
have cycled her through.
I would
Then
have
you,
cycled her ass. I
yeah.
really would have.
And that's
I
what people
totally
got to
would have.
remember. They got to remember that, yeah, you said the way to get a narcissist is to not be able to be caught, to always keep them chasing, but you shouldn't be wanting that anyway.
No, you
But
shouldn't.
people in a trauma bond, they do unfortunately think that's the way. And then
Yeah,
what
and they're
really
wrong.
confuses them is they try to do what they would want. And they think, oh, I would want this love. I would want someone doing things for
Yeah.
me, showing how much they care. But when it comes to people like that, it's like you said, it can be the opposite, where
Oh, it
they
totally.
see that and it just bores them.
It
But
does, man. If I catch you, I mean, this is the old me. I sound like BoJack Horseman now. That was the old me. Can I get some alcohol into my mouth? Yeah, no, that was the old me. Before I became self-aware, before I went to treatment, before I learned anything about any of these things, that was the old me. That's how I was, man. If I was able to get control of you, well, then you're screwed. Because now I'm going to become very avoidant, very complacent. I'm going to become just I'm not going to be happy anymore because now I've won. If you want a narcissistic person to chase you for a long time and be really cool to you and everything and like treat you like you want to be treated, you always got to be one step ahead and keep them chasing. And if they ever get control of you, that's when you'll see them move on to other things. It's not so much that like I cheated or that I was a cheating type person. I mean, like cheating honestly is one of those things that's kind of a misconception. And they think that, I mean, it's not in any diagnostic criteria. It's not. Uh, do they cheat? Do some of them cheat? Yeah, a lot of them do. A ton of them do. I haven't been a cheater for decades. That's not my thing. I'm not going to cheat on you with a person, but you know what I will cheat on you with? My job. I'll cheat on you with my hobbies. I'll cheat on you with my friends as far
why
as
do you consider
and I
that
don't mean
cheating, though?
friends like gay shit either.
No, I get you.
I
But
just
why do
mean
you
I'll
consider
spend
that
time with them.
cheating?
I'll do video games is cheating. if you got a narcissistic partner who sits upstairs all day long playing video games 6, 8 hours a day and they don't want to spend no time with you, that's cheating.
Let's say neglect. It might be
Mm,
neglect.
yeah, I guess you could call it that. But I'm trying to relate to some of the people who think that they're all cheaters. Like some of these people get in these loops, especially people with autism and people with BPD and uh, and even people with MPD and stuff. They get in these loops, loop-de-loos, as I like to call them,
This is
and
true.
they can't separate things like what you just said. Like neglect to them is cheating.
Yeah, I mean, they go black and white. Like some people will say
Yep.
all narcissists cheat, all narcissists will never say they're sorry, and they'll just go into these black and
Yep.
whites, which I try to clarify. It's like, no, they can say sorry. They might not mean it sometimes, or most of the times they might not mean it, but they can say it.
Dude, I'll say sorry to you. I'll say
Right?
sorry, even if I don't mean it. I'll say sorry because I'm very Machiavellian a lot of times too. Like even if I don't think that I should having to be saying I'm sorry, I'll still say it. If it serves a purpose.
So many
Everything.
fires has a question for you. What about cheating in their minds? I mean, and I would say cheating in your mind. I mean,
What do you mean cheating in your mind? I don't know what they
I
mean
think
by
a
that.
lot of people end up cheating in their minds, but whether they act on it in reality is a different story. And
Well,
how
dude,
that
people
looks.
murder people in their minds.
That's true
Like
too.
that. That's not. I'd say as far as cheating in your mind is concerned, I mean, who doesn't do that? And maybe that's my narcissism speaking here because I do project a lot onto other people because I have difficulties with whole object constancy. But um, doesn't everybody cheat in their minds a little bit? I mean, doesn't everybody have fantasies
If
and
they're being
ideas?
honest with themselves, I think.
I mean, like you could have a fantasy about cheating. You could have fantasy about unaliving somebody. You could have fantasy about, some fancy car that you're going to buy tomorrow, even though you don't have the money to buy it, whatever. I mean, what goes on in your mind? I mean, that's kind of like, shouldn't that be a little bit, sacred and personal? You know, you know,
True.
like shouldn't you be allowed to think and everything in your mind anytime you want to? I mean, that
Yeah. I
cheating in
mean,
your mind?
and
No,
that's the
no,
thing too.
cheating in your
Just
mind.
because you think it doesn't always mean
Yeah,
you should say it or tell everyone everything that's on your mind. I mean, could
yeah.
you imagine if people did that? If
Oh
people
no,
did
it'd be
that, the
horrible.
world would blow up. I mean,
Dude, it'd be so horrible.
we'd be
But
done for.
in the Bible, I guess, in the Bible, they say something to the effect of, and I'm no Bible thumper, but I am a Christian. But they say something to the effect of what a man has already laid on his brain and in his mind. And I'm not quoting for word for word, guys. Please do not, you Christians, Bible thumping types. I'm a Christian too, but I don't thump the Bible. Don't quote me on here word for word. But don't they say something to the effect of, what a man is thinking about if he's lusting after another woman or he's thinking about this, he's already cheated. I'm pretty sure it says that in the Bible somewhere about like he's already cheated, even if he thought about cheating with another woman. Uh, but I don't know if that's Old Testament or New Testament, but I mean, like the Old Testament used to say really wild stuff that I bet pretty much these days nobody would really go for. Like for instance, if the left eye offend thee, then pluck it out. I mean, how many people are going to do that?
Right.
Nobody's going to do that.
Coveting, they're coveting your neighbor's
Yeah,
wife. I think what the
yeah,
Bible would say in the Ten Commandments, which is true. And like if you do it in your mind, I think the point the Bible's trying to make is that's bad enough. It's
mm,
bad enough if you're already doing it in your mind. It's
yeah.
even worse if you act on it.
If
But
you act on it.
it's bad enough.
But I
Just
mean,
thinking.
if we all got punished for what we think about, like, let's be honest, we wouldn't have 9 billion people on the planet.
No, certainly
You know
not.
what I'm saying?
Now
Like
here's a question I
we
got for
all
you
do some
too.
fuck shit.
How did you ever come to accept the diagnosis of narcissism and borderline? Because you would think
I had
people
already
would struggle
accepted,
with that.
dude. I had already accepted before I ever went. In fact,
Okay.
I fired 6 therapists because they disagreed with me.
Well, I mean, that's common, I think.
I
Because what did
did.
they disagree with you on?
They disagreed with me that I was a narcissist.
What did they say?
They said that I was too self-aware.
Too self-aware. So they didn't know what they're talking about then.
That's exactly right. They didn't know what the fuck they was talking about.
Yeah. So, I
Exactly
mean,
right.
I don't know where people get these ideas from. Well, because that's the other thing I hear about narcissists too. People will say, "Oh, narcissists never self-reflect," and it's like,
Yeah,
or
that's bullshit.
they'll say they're incapable. They'll say it's like, no, they might not self-reflect, but it doesn't mean they're incapable of it. Like many don't, but they are capable, I believe. I think a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
times
they
they just
totally,
choose not to.
absolutely they are. Yeah. So my girlfriend and I, we've been together for almost 2 years, and we was having some issues a couple months ago. She had a lot of anger problems, which is very common with people with BPD. They're dysregulated a lot, and when they're dysregulated, a lot of times they don't know how to fix it. Like people with borderline personality disorder have a hard time even identifying their emotions and like actually understanding how they feel about things, right? So she was getting very angry about a lot of things, and so she hadn't been to therapy in quite a while, and I got her to go back to therapy, and through her going back to therapy, she started to like reconnect with some of these ideas and some of these things that she'd kind of forgot about because she'd been out of therapy for a while. And so when she went back to therapy, she started to reconnect with a lot of those things. And one of the things that she reconnected with was not understanding that she had a tendency to not take accountability for things and not be able to understand why she was so angry. And once she did go back to therapy, which I'm very proud of her for doing, and I definitely encouraged it, things have gotten a lot better. Sometimes narcissistic people, and when I say that from a standpoint of borderline personality disorder too, because what a lot of people don't understand about borderline personality disorder is that all people on the cluster B, except for psychopaths that are born that way, factor one psychopaths, is that we all have a borderline personality organization, borderline structure. And so a lot of people that are on the cluster B, they don't realize that there's a lot of times that they are very non-reflective and they don't think about what they're doing and they don't want to take any acceptance or responsibility for anything they're doing. And even if you've been to therapy, even if you've learned a lot of these things, you will dismiss them. Like I'm gonna bring up Lee Hammock here for a second because one of the things that he told me was very important in my healing journey. He said that his therapist had told him that narcissists are like rubber bands, right? And you'll hear me speak a lot about narcissistic people because I do believe and realize that most of the people on the cluster B are narcissistic. We all have a borderline personality structure, a borderline personality organization. And if you think I'm bullshitting you, then you need to read and you need to look up doctors like Dr. Otto Kernberg, like Dr. Melanie Klein. Some of these people who have been in the business, and I do say business because, a lot of these doctors are making an ass load of money off this stuff. They know what they're talking about. So if we all have a borderline personality structure, not BPD, it's different.
What do you mean by
BPD
structure, though? What does that mean?
structure is your structure, your structured personality. Like schizophrenics or people with a schizoid core have a borderline personality organization structure. Borderlines, people who have BPD, they have a borderline personality structure and an organization. Narcissists have that. Sociopaths have that. I stick to the cluster B on my education because I ain't trying to be a doctor and get 12 years into this, right? And I've only been studying it for 3. Uh,
So does
but
that involve like the fear of abandonment and then the fear of losing themselves and being smothered? Is that considered a part of the borderline structure?
it is. It
Okay.
is. All these signs and symptoms that you see with this structure, this organization, a lot of that it all comes into play there. So if you understand that, if you understand that everybody has that's on the cluster B, except for psychopaths, totally different thing. I don't even think they should be on the cluster B. Honestly, I think they should have their own deal. They're born that way. That's another thing that people don't really realize. Psychopaths are born that way. They didn't like they weren't made. They were born that way. There's actually brain scans that people have, doctors and hospitals and everything have done on this, and they are not the same. Factor one psychopathy is different than most everything else. Okay, but we all have this structure. We all have this structure in the way that we handle things. So with that being said, you're going to have entitlement issues. You're going to have empathy deficit issues.
That's hereditary too. A lot of those empathy deficiencies, they can be very hereditary.
Some of them can. I mean, you're talking about genetics when you get into that
Yeah,
hereditary element of it, and I do believe that genetics do play a part, as many doctors do, as many clinicians do, as many scientists do. But we're all born with different temperaments and mentalities and
yeah,
emotionality and all that. But you're not born a narcissist. You're not born that way. It's created through your environment. Now, you might have some genes that are more make you more susceptible to these things, but you're not born that way. I wasn't born an MPD. I wasn't born BPD. That I might have had some of the genes for it, but that doesn't mean that I was born
yeah.
that way.
And that's what they would say. They would say you had that
Yeah,
inherent genetic traits
yeah,
that once you get into the right conditions, and people who have those traits, they're more likely to go into those conditions.
they
And
are.
then
They
it's
are.
like bing, bang, boom. Then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, NPD.
There was a study done, and I can't remember. This is something I learned like maybe a couple years ago. I don't know who said it. Dr. Romney. I don't know if it was Dr. Grande, or I
I
don't
know
remember
them.
who it was. I don't remember who it was, but whoever it was, they said there was a study done where they went into a hospital and they were trying to do a test on like the different levels of emotionality and temperament that children are born with or not born with, and so they took a feather and they went into a hospital and they, the newborn babies in the, what do they call it, nursery, I guess. So they ran this feather down all these kids' noses, right? All these babies. And like some of them, when they ran the feather down the nose, they were completely unaffected. It didn't seem to matter one way or the other. They put this feather. I mean, I don't consider that torture or anything, but I mean, they just ran the feather down. So some of the kids were just like, whatever, man. I got a shitty diaper, like whatever. And in some of the kids, like they would show some minor discomfort and irritation with this feather. And then other kids, like they lost their damn minds, screaming, crying, ah,
Yeah.
what the fuck, And that test, that was just one research thing that they did to try to figure out, like, are people born with different mentalities, different emotional emotional states, different temperaments, all whatever. But that was just one particular study that was done. But we're not all the same, and that's important for people to understand too, because I say a lot of times on my channel, I'll say, like, these narcissists didn't choose this, and borderlines didn't choose this. I mean, these things are formed from 2 to 6 years old, so they're not choosing these things. These are just situations that they have found themselves in as children, and the human mind and the human brain is very resilient. Like, we are kind of pre-programmed by God, dare I say, to survive, right? So if you put somebody, like, say for instance, that particular child that went crazy with the feather, like, what the fuck, uh, that child is probably a little more predisposed to be a little more emotional than maybe some of the other ones.
Right.
It's
Did they
it's going
follow up those kids later on in life? Do you know? Like, did they do a
they
follow
they,
up?
they haven't they that's actually a good question. They haven't yet. I mean, how do you do that? You're talking about a child that's just been born, and then what if you're going to do a study? I guess you have to come back 16 years later. So they haven't done that
It's a
yet.
long time.
Yeah, it's a long time.
A long
So,
time to
but there
wait.
there are people who do those kind of studies, and there are studies that have been over 20 year period of time. But this is all new. All of this stuff is very new. Like, everybody thinks they know so much about this stuff, but I mean, all these studies, they call it practicing medicine for a reason,
Yeah.
because they're practicing it. They don't know all the doctors don't have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. But you'll get all kinds of camps of people that are like, no, 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 it's all genetic. 100% born that way. They're either an arc or they're not, or whatever. Um, that's not true. That's 100% not true. There's no studies that show that genetics are 100% responsible for borderline personality disorder, antisocial
Right.
personality disorder,
And I don't even think Dr. Salerno would say that either. He would never say 100%. He would
no,
say
that's
it's
all or
certainly
nothing. That's black or white thinking.
right. It's
It's
a
black
big
or white.
factor, and then the environment plays a part,
Mhm.
and as well as other things play a part too. Like, there's other
Oh,
things
tons,
besides
tons.
the environment and genetics as well.
Yep, 100%. I agree. I agree. I mean, it'd be all kinds of things. I mean, shit. Like, what about autism? Throw autism in the mix. Throw autism in there. Uh, can people with autism have MPD? Yep. They sure can. And there's plenty of research to show that. Um, I won't. I generally won't speak about things that I've done no research on myself or know anything about. Like if I tell you something,
Smart.
I've done a bunch of research on it, or I
Good.
wouldn't say.
Good. Now, you mentioned Dr. Romney before. What are the software narcissists? What do they think about Dr. Romney?
I don't know, man. I don't know what they think about her. Honestly, I mean, I have my opinions about her. I like her. I think she's a little too hardcore sometimes on some things. I know. I've heard not just self-aware narcissists, but I've heard a lot of people say that they think she's a narcissist herself.
Ooh.
But I mean, come on, like, man, nobody's. If we're talking about qualifications to diagnose people, I don't have any qualifications to diagnose anybody, and I'm not going to. I mean, I'll tell you what I think. I'll tell you what my subjective opinion about people is. But honestly, I'm pretty Machiavellian too. I don't know if you know
Dark
what that
triad. Little dark triad action.
yeah, yeah. I don't pick sides, and if I do pick
Yeah.
sides, I usually pick the winning side.
Yeah. You should tell people what the dark triad is for those who don't know. Well, there's dark triad, dark tetrad, but
Yeah, dark
dark
triad
triad.
is Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and narcissism. And a lot of people. Oh damn, we could just do this. Could go on for hours if we
Good,
really want to talk
good.
about all this
We
stuff.
got time,
Honestly,
man. I'm
you
living the
know,
dream over here. But
uh,
what's Machiavellianism for those who don't
no
know?
Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism. A lot of your politicians are Machiavellians. A lot of them are, and I don't want to like over just flood you with a bunch of details of things because it's not really necessary. You can do your own research. But if someone is very Machiavellian, they are highly manipulative, and they don't take sides. I've actually encouraged and told other people who ask me for advice or look up to me on certain things on their platforms and stuff like that. I'm like, don't be taking sides on these things. Don't bring up politics. Don't bring up religion. Don't bring up LGBT and all these other things because you know Machiavellians are smart enough to understand that look, everybody's got differing opinions on things, and you don't get yourself involved in all that. You get yourself involved in the things that you can win, and you back the winning team. If you want to win, you don't back losers, you back winners. And that's kind of the way that Machiavellians think about things. Like I'm not gonna if someone were to ask me who my party is, am I Republican, am I Democrat, whatever, or am I conservative, am I liberal, am I moderate, whatever, I'm gonna say like, well, I don't think that's really important right now to talk about. Like, what does that have to do with what I talk about, which is personality disorders on the cluster B? So, I mean, I'm not going to tell you anything more than what I need to get my point across and get my needs met and get
Right.
what I want.
And that drives people crazy too, because they think, how could they just jump from one thing to the next? How can they just like act as if they believe something if they don't really truly believe it?
Because they have fluid morals and values,
Yeah,
and it's
that's what
all
I wanted you to say.
that is exactly
Because it's
we're
really just
adaptable. We're
calculated.
chameleons.
Yeah, it's like a cold and calculated thing.
Yeah.
Probably a
Well, I
little
don't know that
impaired
I'd say
empathy
it's
in
cold and
there.
calculated. I'd say it's calculated.
Calculated for sure.
Yeah. Cold implies that it's malicious and they're doing it on purpose, or that they're doing it in a sadistic way to hurt you. Because you brought tetrad earlier. You said
Yeah,
dark tetrad. Sadism is not in any of these diagnoses. Like
right.
you'll never find that. You'll never find that in the DSM-5. They don't talk about sadism anymore. They took that stuff out a long time ago.
I wonder why.
Now,
Why would they do such a thing?
they would do it because it's already stigmatized and generalized enough. I mean, let's be honest. You think I'm a sadist? You think I take pleasure from hurting people?
Do you?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. I would never laugh in the face of somebody crying in front of me or dismiss them or think that I don't have time to deal with that bullshit. But that's me. These are spectrum disorders, and some people show a lot of dark triad stuff. Some people show some tetrad stuff, which sadism is the part on the tetrad. That's the part that is added to the triad. It's on the tetrad. That's sadism, psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. And some higher spectrum malignant type narcissists who have a lot of traits of ASPD are like that. And again, I don't speak on shit that I haven't researched myself or don't have any personal experience with very often. I will tell you that my experience with ASPDs And I've only had personal experience with sociopaths. I've never had any real personal experience like dealing with in a one-on-one, they're in my life real world way with a psychopath, factor one. But I have had some in my life experience with sociopaths, and I don't fucking like them, and I don't fucking trust them, and I don't fucking deal with them other than at arm's length. And I have my reasons for that, which I'm not
Oh,
going to
wise choice.
throw anybody under the bus or mention any names, but I've dealt with some sociopathic type people. I've dealt with people who are diagnosed with that disorder, and yeah, I keep them at arm's length.
Let me ask you this: do they diagnose people with that in America? Because I mean, I know in America it's
Well, with
under the
ASPD,
antisocial personality disorder is the official diagnosis in America.
my
And
understanding of it, and again, I don't tend to speak too much on things I don't know shit about, especially because I'm Machiavellian. I don't want anyone to ever call me out and say I'm a
fair,
liar or say I contradicted myself. So I will always precursor things. That's a
good.
Machiavellian trait. I'm not going to answer a question directly, and I'm not going to speak on things I don't know shit about.
The old
For some,
politician.
yeah, yeah, I would have made a great politician.
The word Saladin politician.
Yeah. Uh, from my understanding of the disorder, and this is my subjective, non-clinical, non-professional opinion of this, is that there is no uh, diagnosis for ASPD. They have to be profiled, from what I'm
Ah,
taught, and I've been taught that by diagnosed factor one psychopaths and factor two sociopaths. Every one of the sociopaths that I know has told me that is not a diagnosed thing. That you have to be profiled, and that they have to look at um, your criminal history and because people with ASPD normally have some kind of criminal history that is documented because they're criminals. And that's one of the fucking
usually.
reasons I'm not friends with them very
Yeah.
often, or at least keep them at a distance. I'm not going to get super close to a psychopath or a sociopath, factor one or factor two psychopathy. I'm not going to do it because I'm not dumb.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a smart move. 'Cause, I mean, the way I used to understand it was the thing people would say: psychopaths are born, sociopaths are made.
that's true.
Both fall
I
under
know.
the ASPD umbrella.
Yeah,
And but in other countries, though, they do it a little differently. I think. I think in Canada, for example, they might actually have a psychopath diagnosis. I think in Canada.
yeah, they
But
might, and I could be totally bullshitting you and totally wrong here, dude. That's why I say I don't really
well,
speak
it's
on stuff.
different. It's different for wherever
It's
you
different
are.
in different countries. Like from my understanding and what I've been and the psychopaths that I know and the sociopaths I know and from what they've talked to me and told me is that they don't get diagnosed with it, that it's a profile
Okay.
in America, in the United States. I don't know if it's that way in Canada or other countries, but
Yeah, they
the
got a
ones
different
I've
book.
spoke to, they said it's a profile.
That makes sense to me. You mentioned this the other day too. People, and I see other creators talk about this, but they'll say all guys that are narcissists are also gay.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
What
see made a
what do you
video
think
about that
about that?
yesterday. I think it's horseshit. I really
Yeah.
do. My opinion of it personally is that, well, actually, I'll say this is my opinion and also the research I've done on that particular thing because it seems to be like a common thing that a lot of people think. There's no medical research on that either. There's no research. There's no studies. There's no nothing that says that's true at all. And my subjective opinion of it is that a lot of people who say those kind of things only say it because they've been hurt like really horribly by a narcissistic person or somebody that they think is a narcissistic person. But when I, again, let's go back to what I say is a narcissistic person: borderline, narcissist, sociopath, histrionic, and psychopath. They're very narcissistic too. So when I say narcissistic people, I mean people who show these signs of narcissism, right? So I think a lot of times when somebody is hurt by a narcissistic person, be it a psychopath, sociopath, malignant narcissist, borderline, histrionic, whatever it is, um, they're looking for answers. They're confused. They're very hurt. And, rightfully so, they might want a little revenge and they might want to hurt somebody back. And since, at least in the United States, Again, I'm being subjective here because I'm exposed basically to America and the United States. In the United States, as much as we want to try to accept the LGBT community and understand that not everybody's sexuality choices are the same, it's still very stigmatized here in this country, and it's still one of those things that where if somebody were, uh, well, here I'll give you an example. So my girlfriend is bisexual, admittedly, and I don't have a fucking problem with that at all. I really don't. I've had gay friends that were men, and I don't have a problem that they're gay either, as long as they don't try to force that shit on me if I don't want it, right? Because I'm not, and so I don't want it. If they're respectful, they can remain my friend, as long as it's not a forefront deal. Like somebody's sexuality shouldn't matter, honestly. It shouldn't really matter, as long as somebody's respectful to you, and when you tell them no to something and they respect that, then who gives a damn what sexuality they are. But what I think happens a lot, and I'm gonna give you some specific examples of how I know this to be true, at least from my own subjective opinion. People who are hurt by narcissistic people, they have a tendency to want to get revenge sometimes. And if you think I'm bullshitting, go type in "how to torture a narcissist" on TikTok or any other platform for that
I've seen
matter.
that title a couple times out there.
I use it all the time, man. It's clickbait. I use it all the time. I call it the carrot and stick. I'll throw the carrot out there and I'll beat your ass with a stick, to get you to listen. Because everybody that's been hurt by one of these people, they do a lot of times want a little revenge.
Right.
And I get it. I
It's
understand,
true.
man. I've been through it too. So
It's a good phase of healing, though, too. Like going
it
through an
is. It
anger
is.
phase is a
Mhm.
good step in the right direction,
It
actually.
is. It is good. You can't linger in it, but they all want a little revenge. They all want a little payback, and I get it. And I'll happily make videos all day long telling you how to torture these people because that's what they want to hear, and that's the carrot. And the stick is it don't matter if you torture them or not. It doesn't matter if you're not getting revenge. There's only 3 times you can hurt a narcissist, and so you can try to get all the revenge you want. It ain't gonna matter. You can call them gay all you want. If you think that's gonna hurt them, it doesn't matter. If they are really gay, then they're just gonna keep being gay. And if they're not gay, they're gonna get irritated by it. You're just gonna make them more mad at you, and then they're gonna continue to ghost and ignore you and block you and everything else. But they and don't get me wrong, I do think some of them are gay. 100%. And some
Of
are
course, there
bi
are
too.
some. Of course, there are some.
But saying that all here's the other thing, dude. They don't say it about the female narcs. They only say it about the women. Or I'm sorry, they only say it about the males. They don't say it about the females because in our societies, no one seems to give a shit if women are gay. They don't
There's
care.
less of a stigma against
Less of a
a
stigma for sure.
bisexual woman
Yeah.
as opposed to a bisexual guy.
But my girlfriend is bi, and she told me her mother wanted to kick her out of the house and just totally disown her for being bi. And I don't give a shit if she's
It's
bi.
possible. Yeah, I mean, that
No, it
happens too.
happens. But when you call a male um, bi or gay, whether they're narcissist or not, that there's such a stigma behind it when it comes to males that whether they're narcissist or not, or it doesn't matter. If they're not gay, it hurts them to hear that shit, and because they're not. I can tell you one thing I know about narcissists, and this doesn't matter whether they're gay or bi or straight or whatever. If you accuse a narcissist of being something that they're not, or you accuse them of doing something they're not doing, they take that more offensively than the
Mm.
shit they do. Stuff that they really are doing. Because they're like, damn, I'm a lot of things, but I'm sure not that.
Right.
It'll get them really
I
angry
think
and
that's a
upset.
lot of people too. A lot of people,
Oh yeah,
narcissists or
nobody
not,
wants that.
are not going to like that.
Yeah. So my opinion of it is that I'll say this. There's no research that points in that direction. Um, People who say that sort of thing are looking for revenge. They're looking to relieve some of the hurt of what that person did to them. And I will say that as far as research and all of it is concerned, it is just as likely that somebody who had diabetes or that has diabetes and they're males, you have to remember that most of these people say it's the males, not the females. I would say that it's just as likely that males with diabetes are all gay as it
Yeah.
is that males with MPD are all gay. I'll say that. Are
Okay.
there some people with diabetes that are gay and bi? Yeah, absolutely there is. Is there some people with MPD that are males that are gay and bi? Yeah, sure there is. But I think the motivations are wrong. I think the
I can see
motivations
that. I
are
can
wrong.
tell you why they say. I know why they say it. So
Yeah,
one
they
reason
want
they
to hurt
say,
somebody. I get it.
well,
It's
that's
fine.
part of it. But the reason why they also think it is because they'll often have sexual fantasies where they want the woman to be involved with another guy. And maybe that's a cuckolding type thing. And also,
Hold on. You know what? Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that.
aha,
It's funny that you mentioned that. So you said so. So what you just said was is that they have these fantasies that they themselves, as a male, would want a female they're with to um, have another male involved. Is that what you
yeah,
just said? Okay. I have personal experience with that. I'm glad you brought that up. I, as a narcissist, would never, ever, 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 ever fucking share my partner with nobody. Nobody. If a man who you suspect is a narcissist is asking another man to come into your bedroom, you are not dealing with a narcissist.
I don't think you
And
could
if
say
you
that either,
are,
though.
you are dealing with a malignant narcissist who is highly sociopathic and psychopathic. That's what you're dealing with. I've actually made videos on this before. I don't share my toys with anyone. And I'm speaking as a narcissist now. I don't share my shit with nobody, especially the females in my life. I'm not going to share them with anybody. And if you are being asked by a man in your life to bring another man in and get, what is it called? Cucked? Is that what that's called? Cucked, right? You ain't dealing with a narc. And
But
if
they
you
could
are,
be. It could be a narc,
no,
though.
well, hold on a second. Let's really get into it here. All sociopaths are narcissists.
Right.
All psychopaths are narcissists. Not all narcissists are socios or psychopaths. All right?
Yeah.
That's the general rule of it. If your man is a narcissist or a suspected narcissist and he is asking you to bring another man into the bedroom, it is because he is severely bored. It is because he is sadistic. It is because he may possibly be a masochist as well, because he likes to hurt himself as well. Um, it could be because he's maybe gay, maybe.
I have a
But
theory.
I will say this. I would never, ever ask that because I don't share my toys. I'll say it in the most
And I
narcissistic way
totally
I
believe
can.
that, too. I
I would
believe
never
that,
do
too.
it because I don't share my shit with no fucking body, especially a dude.
Right.
I'm not going to do it. If you're dealing with somebody like that, you're talking about more on the malignant side of things, sadist, masochist,
Now,
malignant,
that I can see.
sociopath, psychopath. That's what you're dealing with. You're not dealing with a typical narcissist. And I know plenty, and I've had plenty of male friends who are narcissists, and I can tell you right now, they don't fucking share. Now, that's not to say they won't ask a woman to come in. There's
Well, and
tons of
that's a different
narcissists
part of it,
that'll
too.
say, "Let's have a threesome with a girl,"
And here's the other part
but
about it, though,
no,
too.
they won't do it
So
with a man.
I think pornography can play a part, too. And I think there's some dudes that probably have an addiction to porn.
Tons
And
of,
then I
tons,
think, and narcissists, too, can have addictions to porn. And then I
100%.
think that bringing other dudes into a relationship is really just recreating what they see in porn.
If they
And I
are,
think,
if they are malignant, if they
yeah,
are malignant or higher level,
I
I don't do
mean,
shit. Dude, I used to watch porn. I don't do it anymore, but I used to watch it. And watching a girl get fucked by two dudes ain't my shit. I ain't into that. That's not my thing. And
right.
I sure ain't. Even if, like, to me, that's sick. That's fucking sick. And no, I have a daughter. I have a 13-year-old daughter. Why would I get off on watching two dudes sexually assault a woman? Because that's what they're doing when they do that.
Sexual assault?
I consider it that. If two
Well,
dudes are doing something to a woman like that, I consider it sexual assault. Because
well, some women wouldn't even
healthy
consider
women,
that.
a lot of healthy women are not going to participate in that. And if there's women watching this post that's what they like, well, then my apologies. But my opinion, my subjective opinion, is that no woman who is healthy and in her right mind would want to get railed by two guys.
Oh man, they're gonna come at you for
Sorry.
that.
They
They're gonna
can
come
if they
at you for
want to.
that.
They
Well,
can.
because they'll
Well,
say there's all
the
different kinds of
disordered women will.
sexuality out there for
Mhm.
people to get into.
Yeah. Hey, if you like getting dicked down by two guys, do your thing. But I'm telling you, I ain't never met a healthy woman who thought that was good.
You might go
I never
viral
have.
for that one.
I never have. I've never met a woman who wanted to get assaulted in that way or wanted to get that kind of pleasure out of things.
I
I
could
never
tell you
have.
their argument. Their argument would be like, "No, I just
Mhm.
want. That's what I wanted. I like what I like." So that's
Well,
what they would say.
a lot of people who have been through a lot of trauma in their life don't even know that they're being traumatized.
No, that's true too.
And they sometimes will recreate that trauma that they've already been in a way like exposure therapy almost. Like women that have been assaulted in that way, a lot of times will continue to act out in that way in a way to gain control back of themselves. You
Now,
know,
that's they say kinks and fetishes. That's
yeah, a
kind
lot.
of what that's about too.
Yeah, a lot of
Someone
times
has
that is.
like a fetish. It's representing some sort of repressed
Mhm.
or unmet need
And
that they
listen, I
had
don't
in
say this shit
childhood.
lightly, bro. I don't say this shit lightly, and I'm not just speaking out my ass. What I tell you earlier, I'm not going to speak on something that I don't know shit about. I've had multiple women, including my own girlfriend, tell me the exact thing I just said.
Oh, I believe women would say that. I
A
just
lot of
think
them do.
other women
A
would
lot of them do.
also disagree with that, is what I would say.
I'm sure they would. I'm
Yeah.
sure they would.
And that's fine. I mean, people are allowed to have different opinions about
They
things.
are. They
But I
are.
do think it's interesting about that fetish and kink thing too. For
Mhm.
example, like a foot fetish is a common thing.
I've
And
heard
that,
that. I don't get it,
I've
but
never
okay.
understood the
But
foot fetish
hey,
either.
maybe that's a good point. I don't get the
But they
foot fetish.
said this, and this
Yeah.
is what I heard about it. They said, okay, if a kid had an uninvolved mother or father, like this one that's really busy, they're only seeing that parent's foot from the time they're 1, 2, 3 years old. And I was like, oh, I mean, maybe that could be a part of it. Maybe that could be
Maybe.
part of
I
the
don't know.
origin story of a foot fetish.
Yeah. Maybe so. Maybe so.
But I don't know. But I mean, I do think the porn thing, I think that contributes. And I
I do.
think, and sometimes it might just be wanting to objectify and use someone as a tool slash
I agree.
object. I
I
think
agree.
that's part of it too. I think there's
I,
many moving parts. That's what I would say.
I do. It's very complicated. And like I said, when I say what I say, this is my opinion. This is my subjective opinion based on my own personal experience, my own disorders. I'm not speaking like for everybody. Everybody's a little different. Everybody's got their own thing. Like I said, if you like getting railed by five guys, hey, more power to you.
I got
If
you.
you like doing stuff with guys, more power to you.
I mean, people just have to be careful. Like when people say all narcissistic guys are gay, it's a
That's the
black and
big
white
deal,
thing to
man.
say.
It's black and white thinking,
Yeah.
and so we have to be careful. And listen, I'm disordered, man. I have MPD and BPD. I'm disordered, so I think in black and white still. I'm not cured. If you go to the doctor and they tell you have pancreatic cancer, that doesn't mean it's healed. You still have the cancer. You just know that you have it. And I know I have these disorders, and I've done the best I can over the last 3 years to try to sort it all out. But do I think in black and white all the time? I still do
How does
all
it
the
come
time.
out for you?
I've learned to reality test a lot more now. Like a lot of times when I think things and somebody has a differing opinion on things, I don't automatically just dismiss their opinion. I might do it subconsciously, but even if I have a conversation with somebody and they don't agree with me, back in the old days, I'll go back to BoJack Horseman here. The old me would have said they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But now I'm more. I'm more objective about things, I'm sure that even this conversation we're having now about these things, I'll go back and think about it. I'll be like, well, you know what? Is that just my viewpoint, my disordered lens? Is that how I look at things through my Perseus shield? Or is it possible that I'm thinking in black and white and I'm having, an issue with whole object relations, which is trying to understand that other people are not me and I'm not them. Maybe other people would have a different perspective. And so I'll reality test and I'll think more like, well, I mean, this is how I think, but that doesn't mean everybody thinks like I think. Narcissists, a lot of times people say that they think that narcissists think they can read your mind. No, we don't. We think you can read ours because we think we are you. We think you're us. You're an extension of us. You're an agent of us. It's hard sometimes for us to differentiate between you and us. This is why we project a lot too.
You made me think
I
up there
project a
too.
lot. I project a lot onto other people. I project
What
my
you
own.
just said is behavior modification too, basically. It's like taking a step back. Oh, just because I see it this way doesn't mean that everyone will see it that way. And that's
Exactly.
learning
Exactly.
how to take a step back and
It is.
respond rather
I'm
than
re-
just react.
I'm reparenting myself, man. I'm
Yeah.
learning to reparent myself. Like all these things were stuff I should have learned when I was like 7, 8 years old. Like I should have had somebody teach me these things, but I didn't. I didn't have anyone teach this stuff to me. I didn't know. Everybody, all children start off as narcissists. They all start off that way. That's how children survive. You know, it's primitive childhood thinking on how they do everything. You know,
No, but
whole
you
object.
see, you think so? You think all children start as narcissists or just
They do.
narcissistic?
They start as narcissist. Everything they do is narcissistic. It's all about them.
So then to
Have
go
to
back
be.
to what you
They
said
have to be.
before, then you had
Yeah.
said no one's born a narcissist before. So what you're saying now is that
Well,
okay, you
yeah,
grow
let's.
out of it. Most people will grow out of it, is what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here, let's change the terminology because here's something I learned over the last 3 years too. People don't understand the word narcissist, narcissism, pathological narcissism, malignant narcissism. They don't understand what any of these are. You know, if I called someone a narcissist, what am I calling them? Am I saying that they have NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, or am I saying that they're displaying narcissistic traits?
Right.
Or am I saying that they have a narcissistic personality style? Or am I saying they're displaying narcissism? Or am I saying they're a malignant narcissist? What am I saying when I say that? People throw around the word narcissist all the time. Most people they can't even, figure out the difference between narcissistic personality traits, between narcissism, between a personality style, between pathological narcissism. Pathological narcissism, for instance, if you say pathological, a lot of people don't even know what the damn word means. What does path mean? Like, I went to nursing school. I didn't graduate, guys. I'm not gonna, build it up here and tell you I'm better than I am here. That's another thing I learned to do was stop, exaggerating my achievements and
That's a
shit.
good one. That's
I did
good.
not I did not graduate, but I did take anatomy, physiology one, medical terminology, psychology. I took all these courses while I was in nursing school, and I did go for a couple years. But what does pathological mean? What does path mean? What does ology mean? Path means sickness, death. Ology means the study of. So if somebody is pathologically a narcissist, that means that they meet, in America anyway, in the United States, they meet at least 5 of the 9 criteria to be diagnosed with NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. Just because someone displays narcissism or narcissistic traits doesn't mean that they have narcissistic personality
Right.
disorder. But a lot of people don't know any of this. They're like
Well, that's why it's
completely
important.
ignorant of all of it.
Like Dr. Simon and Dr. Salerno and I, we both said, like when someone says the word narcissist, it's important to know we're all dealing with the same definition. So when someone says narcissist, what do you mean when you say narcissist?
Mhm.
And I know like what I mean when I say it. Like to me, narcissistic would mean someone has some traits, maybe not all 5 of the 9 to be
Mhm.
qualifying for MPD, but they probably have some toxic behavior. That's what I would
Yeah,
consider
yeah,
narcissistic.
agreed. And what at the end of the day, and I tell clients this all the time when I'm talking to them, is like, who cares about
Right.
the labels? Who even cares about the intent?
I say that too. Because it doesn't matter if someone's mistreating you, someone's disrespecting you. It doesn't matter if they're a narcissist, borderline, Machiavellian, sadist. Doesn't matter. You still got to do what's best for you, regardless of their label. Is what I would say.
100%, man. I say
Now,
this all the time. So if I'm driving down the road and I crash my car into a family of 6 and I kill them all, are they dead? Are they
say that
dead?
again. Say it again.
If I'm driving down the road and I crash my car into a family of 6 and I kill them all, are they dead?
Yes, they're dead.
They're dead. So you can take ethics out of it. You can take morality out of it. You can take all of that stuff. That's all human concept anyway. When you're talking about ethics, morality, all that stuff, take it out. Are they dead? Did I kill them? I killed them. They're dead. So does it matter if I was drunk when I did it? Does it matter if I was playing on my phone when I did it? Does it matter if I was mad at my girlfriend or my wife when I did it? And that's why I was careless and did it. Does any of that stuff matter? They're dead, correct?
I guess
They're
in the
all dead.
eyes
No
of the
matter
law,
what,
it
they're
would
dead.
matter. In the eyes of the law, it would matter.
Well, that's where you're going back into ethics. You're talking
Yeah.
about legal, moral, and ethic.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Those are all human concepts. Those people are dead. So if I have somebody that I bring into my life, or I come after them, or they come after me, or whatever else, and then I have a relationship with them, and I leave the relationship with that person madly in love with me, but I just leave and I give them no explanation. Um, I just leave and I hurt the shit out of them, right? When I do it, does it matter if I'm a psychopath, a sociopath, a borderline, a histrionic, or a narcissist? Does it matter if I'm even diagnosed with any of those things? Maybe I'm just a dick.
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
I'm
I
just
say it
an
doesn't
asshole.
matter.
It
I
does
say
not
it doesn't
matter.
matter.
It does not matter. Intent doesn't matter either. Because if I crash my car into a family of 6 and kill them all, they're dead. And if I bring someone into my life, or they bring me into their life, and I hurt the hell out of them, and I leave them on, on red, unsubscribed, blocked, whatever, and then whatever, it doesn't matter. What does my intent matter? Are they still reeling in pain and upset and hurt? They
I
are.
mean, nothing you can do is going to change that pain that those people are feeling at that point.
That's why the labels don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
When it
And
comes to
I've
that.
made the distinction between assholes and narcissists, for example. And I've made a video about that. I think it's an interesting distinction because I do think there should be a distinction between just like a toxic jerk and a full-blown narcissist. Because there is levels to this, right? Not everyone that's
Very
a
true.
jerk
Very true.
or an ass is a full-blown narcissist. You might just be an asshole. Yeah,
Very much so. Very much so.
totally.
There's another element to it, because we're thinking 2-dimensionally now. Let's think 3-dimensionally. What if I bring someone in my life, or they bring me into their life, and then I exit and I leave them reeling in pain and discard them? Whose fault is that? Is that my fault, or is that their fault? Whose fault is that? Because we're thinking 2-dimensionally here. Let's think 3-dimensionally. What if you yourself are you're the person reeling in pain, and you tell the story that this person came into my life and destroyed it all and got me so madly in love with them, and then they left? What if you're the narc? What if you're the person who's a narcissist? What if you're the one? Let's go back to narcissism, narcissistic. What if you're narcissistic to them, and you think you're right and they're wrong, and then they leave? What if you're the person that's the problem? Because I'll tell you right now, for years I didn't even consider that. I was thinking very 2-dimensionally, black, white, 2-dimensionally, and I never considered that I might be the problem at all. But I can tell you, a lot of people who start narcissistic abuse pages and become coaches and stuff, a lot of them start that because they themselves are highly narcissistic and can only think in black and white. They only see their side of it. And then they talk trash on their partner, and then the one that, left them, because they lost this particular situation. And the whole time, the partner that left them, they were the ones who were being shitty as hell to that partner, and then the partner left them, and now they're hurt. Now they're reeling in pain because they got left. And it's like, but you didn't think 3-dimensionally, you thought 2-dimensionally, and you had a big hand in it, but you can't see that.
You know what I call that? I call that's when someone gets out narked, and there's two narcissistic people, and then one person gets out narked.
Yep.
And then they're the victim. Now,
That's
granted,
right.
is that a majority?
If they made it into a reality TV show, they'd call it Top Narc. Let's play.
That actually should be a show. But there is.
I'd love to see it happen.
There is some people that I can pretty much guarantee that's exactly what's happened. They got out narked, and then they're the victim. Now, is it all the victim stories?
We talked this a couple weeks ago when we
did
talked
talk about that.
Yeah,
we did talk about that.
It's a concept people don't really consider much.
No, but it's a thing, and I've made a video why there's certainly some creators that don't consider themselves self-aware narcissists that probably are. They just don't consider themselves. It might be a lower end on the spectrum, or maybe they're even the higher end, but we're only hearing one side of the story, so we don't know. Because sometimes, like when you do coaching, sometimes until you hear both sides of the story, you're not getting the full picture. Because one person can just feed you whatever they want to feed you, and you don't know.
I don't mean to interrupt you, and I did take my Adderall, so I'm not ADHD interrupting you. I'm narcissistically interrupting you. um, I reached out to a narc coach when I was not self-aware back in the day, over
Oh,
3
you
years
did?
ago.
I can
Oh
see it.
yeah. I reached out to Cluster B Milkshake, Sarah.
I know her. She's been on the channel.
Yeah, I reached out to her. I uh, I talked to her, and I talked to her for an hour and I think 25 or 30 minutes. Had no clue that I was narcissistic or a narcissist or any of those things. And I spent 50 minutes talking and telling her everything that happened. And the last 10 minutes, of it, she goes, "Well, Stephen, it's going to be hard for me to kind of tell you what's going on or whatever if you just keep talking and telling your whole thing and da 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 da." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. I guess I should, let you coach me. That's what I'm paying
Mm.
for, right?" And I kept her on the phone for 20 minutes past our hour and everything, and I had no clue. I had no clue that I was a narc. I had no clue I had BPD. This was a long time ago, and I thought I was completely in the right, and they were all in the wrong. And I reached out too. I did. I reached out to a narcissistic abuse coach, which, if you know anything about Cluster B Milkshake, Sarah now, she's diagnosed with, I believe it's ASPD and NPD, if I'm
I
not
didn't know the
mistaken.
ASPD one. I
Yeah,
forgot.
I think it's on her YouTube channel now. She
Okay.
she she got. I think she from what Jacob told me, the nameless narcissist. He told me that she got with Dr. Mark Edison.
She told me she was
Great.
on the waiting list for him. Yes. Yeah.
Well, from what I understand, from what Jacob told me, that she actually did get with him, and now she
Okay.
is diagnosed with ASPD and NPD. But no, I'm sure the whole time she was talking to me, she was just like, "This narky motherfucker."
Maybe,
I'm
but it
sure she
depends
was.
though.
She probably was. So what I've noticed with my clients is if they take the whole hour to tell me their side of the story, they usually end up being pretty highly narcissistic. And if they end up taking 20, 30 minutes to tell me their side, and then they ask me a lot of questions and want to hear like what they're dealing with and whatever else, narcissistic people want you to hear their side. They want you to not only hear their side, but they want you to agree with their side of the
Sure.
story a lot of
I mean,
times.
that's one of the clues I would say to people is now, because some people might just be full of trauma and they want to get it out to be validated, and I
Right.
think
But
that's a little different.
well, that's
But
true. But
but
I mean,
also,
but let's look. Hold on. Let's look at entitlement for a second. Let's look at entitlement for a second, because that seems to be something that's a real big deal to people on the cluster B. If I pay somebody to talk to them for an hour and get their help, and I spend the entire hour just saying whatever the hell I want and trying to get them on my side, and then I don't really think about the fact that I only paid for an hour, and now I want their help and advice and everything. After I set my story up, I got to set it up, my narrative, so that I get the advice I want to hear.
right, and that happens for
Kind of
sure.
entitled. I don't know if you'd call it
There's
narcissistic.
entitlement and there's some passive entitlement. But here's the other thing I would say. So what I notice with the people that I would consider narcissistic is you can sense that if you were to disagree with something they say,
Hmm.
and maybe it's even more than just sensing it, they're going to get mad. They're
Oh
going to
yeah,
get
I'm that way.
they're
I'm
going to
that way.
get mad if you don't see it the way they see it, and they'll
Yep.
huff and they'll puff and do it. That's one of the clues to me. But like you,
Mhm.
there's been people that I would consider narcissistic that have reached out to help to me. And
Mhm.
that's something that a lot of people wouldn't think. They say, oh, no, narcissists
No,
would never get help.
no, you're
Narcissists
right.
would never reach out. And I was like, no, that's not true.
No, it isn't true.
They might not realize what they are, but that doesn't mean they're not going to reach out for help. Two different things.
Dude, I've got only one female client that has actually realized that she was a narcissist. Only one. I have multiple male clients who, after talking to me for a while, actually have realized that they're highly narcissistic.
That's good. I mean,
Yeah, it,
I
it,
think
it
that's what,
happens sometimes.
and this is something we talked about before too, but I think that's where AA and NA, I think there's a lot of people that have problems with drugs and alcohol. They might be narcissists. They might just have some narcissistic traits, but
Mhm.
there are people that get really helped by AA and NA. And that program helps people that have that issue. Now, it doesn't specifically address it, but by accident, I think it also addresses it. And
It
there's
does.
actually
I
studies
agree.
now, I think, that proves it too, that NA and AA are actually effective strategies for treating narcissism, which I thought was pretty cool too, and I could definitely see it.
Oh, I can too. I agree with you 100%, man. I've went to AA before. I've went before, and I only went a few times because I wasn't an alcoholic, right? Yeah. And I didn't like being shamed, and I didn't like people telling me what to do, and I didn't like I didn't like people telling me what I should do, and
No,
whatever.
that's true.
Yeah, I didn't like any of that. Like you said earlier, if you disagree with me, I got a problem with you now.
Right. Well, that's the
You
thing, though. That's where the
don't disagree with me.
program would help you, though, because it would say, "Oh, yeah, you don't want to be controlled. You don't want to be disagreed with." Well, that's where humility comes in. You
Yeah,
got to practice some humility. Let go, let God is what they would say, and that's like the antidote to that. It's the antidote
yeah,
to
it is.
needing to be in control
I agree
and
with you on that,
that kind of thing.
100%.
Now, granted, do any of them do it perfectly? No, but they're striving. They're striving to
Mhm.
do that, and that's the point. Now, also with BoJack Horseman, you made me think of that quote where he said, "When you have rose-colored glasses, all of the red flags just look like flags." Have you heard that
Yeah,
one?
that's right. I have. Yep, I have. See, you know how to get on my good side, man. Bring up BoJack.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that in an interview. Someone said that. Now, I think the last thing I'll ask you about here is,
Hold on, that's kind of manipulative of you, dude. I'm gonna call you out, man. Trying to relate to me like that
oh
and
man,
trying to get me on your side by
guilty,
mirroring me.
guilty. I'm love bombing too,
I
perhaps.
love bombing too. Yeah.
Yeah, but not in a gay way. That's not in
No,
a
no,
gay
no,
way.
yeah,
All
no, no,
right.
not again.
Yeah. But here's the other thing. What do you think about the narcissist and demonic element or spiritual element? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't buy into it, and the reason I don't is because I've studied the actual disorders extensively, and I listen to clinicians, like Dr. Otto Kernberg, like Emily Klein. Uh, I actually listen to Dr. Romney, and even though people have a lot of or a lot of cluster Bs have a big issue with her, and even if she does like sensationalize things a bit and whatever, I mean, you're dumb if you don't do that these
Right.
days. You
Well,
can't speak total truth. You got to carrot and stick it a lot of times, right?
no,
But I listen to Romney, I listen to Kernberg, I listen to Klein, Diana Diamond, I like to listen to her too. I, I don't know. I don't know, man. It's one of those things where you can't really take any one person's opinion about anything and just take it as gospel.
I agree.
Um, I know there's a lot of spiritual people out there, religious people that they have their beliefs about things, but I've never heard a clinician, a doctor, or psychiatrist or psychologist ever bring that into it. That was a reputable person. I mean, everything I know about these disorders is that there's a genetic component, like we talked about earlier, but it's small in comparison to the environment they grew up in. Like, you wanted to bring up AA and all that stuff. I dated an addict one time. I dated a drug addict, and I went to Al-Anon. And I learned a lot in Al-Anon. And if you ever have dealt with somebody who's an alcoholic or a drug addict or anything like that, you should definitely go to Al-Anon. It helps a lot. And I went with her mother because I was just like, man, I don't understand this person. Like,
No.
I don't understand how you get addicted to something like this and let it ruin your whole damn life, right? Even though, like, I got addicted to supply and narcissism, and I let it ruin my whole damn life, right? But we don't see things that way sometimes. We only see our perspective. So I went to Al-Anon, and one of the things I learned in Al-Anon is that alcoholism and drug addiction are diseases and illnesses, and that you probably have a genetic component involved in that makes someone more predisposed to become an alcoholic or a drug addict. And that's one of the reasons I do my channel too, the way I do it, because like people, they can understand. Well, I say they can understand. Some people don't even understand that. They don't even understand that alcoholism and people who are addicted to drugs and stuff, like there's a genetic component, and that possibly might contribute to why they do these things. But they also don't understand why that MPD is like that, and BPD and all these other things are like that as well. I've never talked to a clinician. I've never seen a clinician talk about spirituality or demons or demonic possession or anything like that and tie that in to narcissistic personality disorder. And I damn sure have never heard a clinician say that about borderline personality disorder, ASPD, antisocial personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder. I've never heard them bring it up about people who have bipolar. I've never heard them bring it up about people who have autism. I've never heard people bring that up about avoidant personality disorder or substance abuse disorder. The only disorder I've ever heard anybody bring that into is narcissistic personality disorder. And I think there's a reason for that. And I think it doesn't sell papers. It doesn't sell papers. There is no element of spirituality or religion that you can bring to narcissistic personality disorder. And if you think that there is, then you have to drag.
Oh, your connection's freezing over there. Looks like we might have lost him. He's frozen in time. We'll give it a minute here to see if he pops back, but he might not. The next thing I was going to ask him was about the only doctor I've heard talk about the demonic component. All right, he's logging back on, I think, now, but we'll see. But Dr. Peck, when I interviewed Dr. Salerno, someone said in the comment section, these guys need to read People of the Lie by Dr. Peck. And I looked at the reviews of that book. I didn't read the book, but he's a doctor, and he calls a lot of people with malignant narcissism evil. But he's one of the few. He's one of the few. Most professionals are not going to put them, yep, Dr. Peck. Most professionals aren't going to put their name behind that part. It's risky for them. But M. Scott Peck, he did do it. And the review I listened to or read said was they don't define evil. That was one thing. I wish they would have defined evil. And then the other thing was he went to 2 exorcisms, but they didn't mention the reason why that was an exorcism versus just psychological treatment. That would have been interesting to know too. Yeah, so they said he was like half. Oh, Bat Wolf's back. Bat Wolf back.
I lost connection somehow.
I saw it because it happened with your voice first, but then your screen froze. But you're good now. But so the only professional I've ever heard, I was telling the people this while you were gone, Dr. Peck, he wrote this book, People of the Lie. He's one of the only ones I've ever heard talk about like malignant narcissists and evil. But he's really the only one. Most people, they will not. They're not going to do that. They're not going to take that stand. But a lot of people in my comment section, probably less likely your comment section, but my comment section, I see people say, oh, spiritual component, demonic forces all the time.
Oh no, they tried in my they tried
They
on
do?
my channel too. Oh no, they do. They try. I just don't allow it.
You shut it down.
Yeah, I don't allow it in my comment section. Like
No,
if I
that's
see it, if I happen to see it, I don't allow it because it's not true. It's not true. And I like I said, most clinicians will never do that. They'll never bring that stuff into it because there's science and there's philosophy. And if you have a reputation for being a professional and having, an actual scientific knowledge and research on these disorders, you're not gonna ruin your reputation by bringing that sort of thing into it.
Right.
And NPD is the only one that they try to bring those things into anyway. And it's because it's generalized and stigmatized and it sells books, it sells papers. I say that all the time, it sells papers.
I think maybe priests or religious people that are also doctors, if anyone would ever do it, it might be them. That would be my guess.
Probably so.
That would be my guess. But you don't see that very often. It's not
No. When
generally a thing.
when you bring philosophy into MPD, you bring in things like the spirituality, the demonic possession, and what do they always say, the Leviathan spirit and the Jezebel spirit. The reason I know about these kind of things is because I see it in comments all the time. But they're Bible thumpers, and there's a ton of zealots in my comment sections that do that. I've had people say, Stephen, you just need Jesus. Because I'll
Ah,
say things like, like I do want to heal from this, and I'm trying my best to do it. And they'll say, well, you just need Jesus. I'm like, well, I went to church from the time I was 14. So, I mean, if Jesus was going to save me from NPD, he would have done it by now.
right,
Maybe
yeah.
Jesus is saving me from MPD. Maybe he finally, gave me the knowledge and everything that I needed to save myself from it.
Right.
God, if you want to bring religion into it, what do they say? God gives us free will, doesn't he? Maybe the free will that he gave me is my own free will to figure out how to figure this out. And a lot of people will try to lay the blame on anything they can. I mean, hell, we were talking about homosexuality earlier. I mean, people were trying to say that, all male narcs are gay. We already talked about that for 30 minutes or whatever. Religion. Now we're going to bring religion into it too. Why is it we only choose MPD to do that?
I think some people would also pull it in with psychopaths as well.
Psychopaths. If you're going to bring religion into anything, that's the last one you should bring it into. Because psychopathy, factor one psychopathy, those people, there's brain scans straight up. And in fact, there's brain scans on MPD too. They can actually prove that psychopaths, and it's generally known to almost everybody that they are born, not made. So I don't know. Like I said, if you bring philosophy into these disorders, you're kind of screwing up because
Sure.
there's a ton of medical scientific research and fact that proves that stuff is not true. I mean,
Right.
scientific method, if you talk about scientific method, you're talking about repeatable things that are repeatable in a clinical setting that are repeatable. You cannot bring religion and spirituality into NPD or ASPD or any of these other disorders because it's not repeatable stuff. That's scientific method. You can't do that. But so anyway, you asked my opinion on it. My opinion is horseshit.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, it's
And so if a
horseshit.
client says
That's
that to
my opinion.
you,
That's my subjective opinion. It's horseshit.
and you would say basically what you just said, if a client tries to bring that up to you, you would say, yeah, that's not the scientific method. It's not going to be a replicatable study. Because that is the thing now too, like having a
No, that's
replicable
not what I
study.
would say to a client though.
What would you say to the client?
I'm Machiavellian, remember? I'm not gonna invalidate my client.
Okay. So how would you go about it then? That'd be interesting.
Because you have to be understanding. You have to be understanding with these people. You have to understand. And when I say these people, I mean people who have been hurt, people who are hurting. I hurt. I'm a narcissist. I still hurt. I still have feelings. I still have emotions. I'm not going to invalidate my client. I'm not going to tell them that because I have tons of them that get on the phone with me and they tell me they're an empath. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to laugh at them about it. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're an empath. Okay. Dude, I've talked to narcissists. I've talked to grandiose, overt narcissists before as clients, and I've even had them ask me, "So, do you think I'm a narcissist?" I'm like, "No, no, not you. Of course not. No, because you know what happens when you tell a narcissist they are a narcissist, they don't want to talk to you anymore.
Often.
They don't want to talk to you anymore.
Often.
I'm not going to be able to help somebody that way. If a grandiose overt narcissist who's completely blind to their disorder and what's going on with them, if they ask me if they're a narcissist, I'm not going to tell them they're a narcissist. They're not going to listen to a word I say after that.
Yeah.
I would much rather. So I'm not a therapist. I'm not a clinician. I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not a clinically trained person. A lot of this stuff I've learned on my own. If you get a good therapist, they want to help you. Like they want you to do better. They want you to not hurt so much, and they want you to be able to, move on with your life in a better way and not hurt other people or yourself. So how does it benefit me as a narcissistic abuse coach, if that's what you want to call me, which I don't believe that's what I am, but how does that help me or my client if they are a narcissist and an overt, grandiose type narcissist, to say like, look, you're a fucking narc. This is all your fault. This is your bullshit problem. You are the common denominator. You just told me about the last 5 girlfriends and you fucked every one of them over. You have no empathy. You have a terrible ability to see your own bullshit. Uh, how does that help to do that? It
You'd have
doesn't.
to do it very, very carefully. And that's
Yes,
what, like,
you
when I've
do.
read therapists, they talk about it because they run into this very same thing. It's like, okay, they get the idea this person's got a narcissistic adaptation, and they know, okay, if I ever address something with this person,
Mhm.
it's very likely they just end treatment and they say,
That's
peace.
exactly right.
They
That's
peace
exactly
out.
right.
So they really try to build up, build up, build up, build up. And they very gently say, oh, did you ever think about this?
That's
Did you
right.
ever?
You
And
suggest things, make
right.
them think it's their idea.
Yeah. And
Their
that's the
idea.
only way that you can get around it sometimes.
It is.
And if you have enough rapport with them, you might be able to, but depending on the severity of the narcissism, you still might not be able to. It's just,
Very true. Very
right.
true.
It's just going to depend.
Mhm. No, I get tons of I won't say tons, but I get a lot of clients who call me that are narcs. They are. I can tell usually really quickly within the first 30, 45 minutes that they are not taking any accountability. They'll even say things like the more they get to know me and the more they feel like they can trust me and everything, they'll tell me the most god awful things that they've done
Sure.
to their partner, and I can't say, well, look, that was fucked up. you you can't do that. Like, why would you do that? Why would you say that? Why would you do this? Why would you do that? I can't do that. Because if I do
You could
that,
gently maybe, and then if you lose
I
a client, you lose a client. But
planting seeds. I don't care about losing the client. That's not my issue at all. I don't do my sessions. Dude, I get plenty of sessions. We talked about this today. I
no,
get
sure.
plenty.
But what I'm saying is just
Uh,
to
I
help
don't want
them
I
the
don't want to
most.
set I don't want to put them out there in the world continuing to do the things they're doing without having some kind of self-reflection or maybe trying to correct their behaviors a little bit at least or something. Like, I'm not going to give them terrible terrible advice that's going to hurt the person they're dealing with or hurt themselves as well. um, but if I'm just bluntly honest with them about things and I just say what's really on my mind, they're done talking to me.
Yeah.
They're done. That's why I tell people all the time, don't write books to these people and try to explain yourself or try to have your own autonomy or your own opinions, because they don't see any of the things that you see. They're blind to it. That's the nature of the disorder. It's a shame-based disorder, and they don't want to feel shame. They don't want to feel like a bad person. And so if they get on the phone with me and I start telling them, no, you really are a bad person. And yeah, if I was your partner, I'd have fucking said peace out too. They're not going to talk to me. I'm there to help them, not hurt them. And so, what I try to do when I talk to people like that is give them some direction that will maybe help them a little bit and help their partner too. I'll be honest, man, most of the time I preach no contact to these people. Even the narcs, I preach no contact because they don't have no business being together. They need to get themselves in some kind of therapy to where they can start self-reflecting in some way. And if that's not something I think I can help them do, then I'm just gonna, sorry, I'm gonna coddle them a little bit, and give them the best advice I can and send them on their way. I've had a lot of narcissistic type mothers call me about their daughters, and I fucking hate talking to them. I really do.
Ah.
Oh, I do. I hate talking to them.
So it's narcissistic mother, and what's the daughter? Is it a golden child, black sheep, scapegoat,
Both, both.
anything?
Usually, if a narcissistic mother calls me about their daughter, it's because the daughter went no contact.
And yet, know what I say to that? I say, there's nothing like a narcissistic parent who claims they have no idea why their children went no contact. Happens all the time. I have no
It does,
idea what
man.
I could have done. But it's like,
I fucking hate dealing with them.
you
I
really
ain't
have
gonna
no
lie, dude.
idea?
Mm,
It's like, they
yeah,
really have no idea. It's like, come
they
on.
don't.
If you think about it for 1 second, you'll probably think of something, but they don't want to see it.
No, they don't. They're blind to it, man. That's the nature of MPD. That's the nature of it. Um, and it is the nature of BPD too. You know, like I see it all the time with BPD people, not just clients, but BPD people in general. But I will say I'm proud of this, man. I have a bunch of mail. It seems like the believe it or not, and I'm not fucking just like talking out of my ass here because I'm a dude. And but my dude clients, my guy clients, they seem to have less of a problem self-reflecting than some of the females do.
Ooh.
I'm not bullshitting. They do. I've got several male clients that they'll even admit it. They'll even admit that they have this narcissism in them. You know, not MPD, and I'm not a clinician, I'm not a doctor, but they are, after they get to know me a little bit, I think they feel more comfortable with me because they're like, well, he's a narc, so I can be more honest and I
Right.
can be more
If
open.
they sense you're not going to judge them,
Yeah, and I don't.
if
I
you
don't judge
sense
them.
if they sense you're not going to jump down their throat about something they
Mhm,
say, you'll be surprised what people say.
mhm.
Like, and they're
Yep,
comfortable with you, they'll
that's
say
true.
all sorts of things,
Yeah.
and they'll
Well,
admit to more. They'll admit to
they
more
will. They will.
when they're
Now,
comfortable.
Now my girlfriend's borderline. My girlfriend's borderline, and I have her on call sometimes, and I will usually ask my client. I'll be like, "Hey, my girlfriend's here. She's diagnosed with BPD. If you don't want me talking about your subject or what's going on with you in front of her, I'll go to another room or whatever. But if you'd like to have her insight as well, she's willing to put it out there." Well, she's really good at sensing the high spectrum, grandiose, overt NPD as well, and so I have to jump on her case a little bit. Sometimes I have to mute my client. I'll be like, Cameron, you can't talk to him that way because if you do, he's not going to want to talk. Like he's going to shut down. I've told you this, baby. These grandiose overts are not going to put up with that. They're not going to listen to you if you start shaming them. And
Right.
she'll go like, I'm sorry, you're right, you're right, you're right. And then she'll shut up and she'll back up because she's borderline primarily, and she has this huge sense of justice, you know. And when I
Yeah,
get
she
an
was telling me that. Yeah.
yeah, and when I get an overt on the phone, when I get a grandiose on the phone, and they start telling us some of the stuff they've done, she'll start scolding them for it, and I'm like, Cameron, you can't do that. You know, you can't do that. If
Now,
you do that,
scolding they won't like whether it's a man or a
no,
woman saying it.
and maybe and scolding might even be a
Well, because
exaggerated
here's what I
word.
was going to ask: is you think they'd like take it better from her in some cases than they would
If
you? But if she's scolding, then I would say no. But
well,
other
scolding,
things, maybe
you have to understand what scolding is to a narcissist.
that could be anything.
Scolding is bringing up what they did,
Yeah.
like calling them out on their poor behavior. Disagreeing with them is
Right.
scolding,
Right.
you know, and you know, she makes no qualms about it.
Right.
She'll
I mean,
tell you
how do you
straight up,
handle this relationship with her anyway? Because it's got to be wild.
patiently.
Now,
Patiently.
you wouldn't think patience and narcissism go hand in hand.
It does with me. I love her, man. I want it to work, man. Like I really want it to work. And there's so many times in my life that I didn't give a fuck about making it work. And I do give a fuck about making it work with her. And so I do everything I can to make it work, you know. Um, Hell, people say all kinds of shit about our relationship. They say I beat her. They say I cheat on her. They say all kinds of nasty things. It's all generalization stuff, you know. And if I wanted to, I could ask her. I could say, "Will you go online and will you make a video talking about our relationship and disproving these people's opinions of us and how they think I'm this horrible person?" But I don't ever ask her to do that because, to be honest with you, I don't give a fuck what those people think. I really
Good.
don't. I live with her every day, almost every day. Like right now, she's not here. She's actually out at a concert with her family. I don't try to isolate her from anyone. I don't try to keep her all to myself or anything like that. I encourage her to go do things separate of me. That's like some of the things I've learned over the last 3 years that you can't make anyone do anything that they don't want to do. You can't.
Right.
And if you're trying to do that, you're fucked up. Like you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. Like let them be autonomous. Let them live their own life. Let them, you know, and they're either going to stay with you or they're not. You know, like if you're the one for them, and if you show them that you care and you love them and that you want to be there for them, they'll see it. You show it through your actions, not your words, man. That's the thing, man. I learned that too over the last 3 years. Like I can tell you whatever I want to tell you, but I have to live it too, and I have to actually show you through my words. And if I'm not, You're not going to believe me. I don't believe people. Like, if they tell me shit, I don't believe them. I don't. Narcissist people will never believe you from your words. That's why they don't listen to your threats. Like when you threaten to leave, I don't believe you. You threatened to leave me 20 times. Never did.
Now,
I'll
let me
believe
ask
you
you
if
this
you,
though,
yeah, I'll
real
believe
quick.
you if you do, though.
Is partially the reason why, I mean, because I would think this too. You won't believe others. Narcissists won't believe others, but it's also because they know how much they lie themselves too.
That's projection. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. Dude, I still struggle with believing people love me. Even when they treat me like they do. Like even when their actions line up with their words, I still struggle with it because I feel very unlovable. I live with all these interjects of all these people in my head that told me I was worthless and that I didn't matter. And I don't talk about this shit much because whenever I do, I start fucking tearing up and get very weak and vulnerable. And I don't like doing that, especially on public things, because it's all about our reputation and how we present ourselves to the world. But in therapy, I cry my eyeballs out, man. Um, when I'm talking to Cameron, I cry my eyeballs out when I'm talking about these things because it's weak. Like I feel weak for talking about those things. And if you find somebody as a narcissist, if you find somebody that will like accept you for who you are, even if you're fucked up, and will listen to you and be there for you, then you should hang on to that person. Like, and that's one of the reasons I don't want to use the word covet when it comes to Cameron, but I comfort her, man. I've never met nobody like that. I've never met somebody, and I've been with her for 2 years. This ain't infatuation. This is not limerence. This is not. Um, I just put her on a pedestal, and I'm just waiting to kick her off of it. I could kick her off any fucking day, man. That girl ain't perfect by no means. She fucks shit up all the time. I mean, we got into a big argument last night because I told her to go get her clothes off the dryer. We had a fucking 45-minute blowout about that because she was like, fuck you. What do you mean get my clothes? Well, you're always pushing me. You're always asking. And I'm sitting there going like, oh, here we go. I know where this is going. But at the end of the day, she destroyed the room and threw shit everywhere. And I just sat in my chair and I said, you feel better now? Everything. And I was like, come here, give me a hug. I kind of laughed at her a little bit, but then she started laughing too. And then we hugged it out. And then she goes, I can't believe I did that. All you asked me
Yeah,
to
so
do.
you can have those difficult things and come back together. That's the thing,
Yes,
being
it's
able to
emotional
come back
permanence, man.
together.
We're learning emotional permanence. We're learning object constancy. We're learning emotional permanence. We're learning whole object relations. We're learning that I'm not her. She's not me. She's independent of me. She has her own autonomy. She has her
Yeah.
own thoughts, feelings, desires, wants, all that stuff. I didn't understand all that shit before. Like 3 years ago, I didn't understand any of that. It was my way or the highway. And if you didn't want to fucking stick around for the shit I was going to put on you, well, then fuck you. I don't need you. I never did need you. I was doing fine before I met you, and I'll do fine after you. This is a typical thing that you'll hear narcissists say. I don't need you. I'm independent myself. I I never needed nobody. I don't need you. If you're gone, big fucking whoop. I'll find somebody to replace you with. This is how narcissists think a lot of
Yeah,
times.
because they don't want to appear as weak, like you said
No,
before. And like
yeah,
someone
no,
said in the comments here too, that like when you share those emotions, like doing that isn't weak. I can see how it could feel weak sometimes to people,
feels
but
weak to
it's
me.
different. It's different
Yeah.
than truly being weak, right? That
No,
takes
actually,
courage to share that kind of
it
stuff.
does. It does. And that's something I have to reprogram my brain to believe, man, because like when I was a kid, crying wasn't allowed. You're not allowed to cry. That's weakness. That's emotion. That's ridiculous. Why would you be crying? I'll give you a fucking reason to cry. Like the
Yeah.
house I grew up in, that's how it was. You know, um, I'm reconnecting a lot with my inner child, and it hurts to do that. It does. It hurts to do that because that child was too weak to deal with the shit I was having to deal with. You know, I was raised in a single parent home. My dad was highly abusive, highly physically abusive. Thank God he wasn't sexually abusive. A lot of them were. A lot of people like me were sexually abused as well. And on top of the physical abuse and the emotional abuse and the verbal abuse and all that. Like, thank God my dad wasn't like that. You know, Because if he would have been that way, I wouldn't have been able to stop him. I was 5 years old. I wasn't able to stop my father until I was about 16. And that's the first time I ever like really stood up against him with a baseball bat. Yeah. My brother, my little brother, every time that me and my little brother got into something, he go tell my fucking dad immediately.
Ah, snitch.
Yeah, he's a snitch. He's fucking golden child.
Ah.
Yeah. So if he didn't get his way with me, he goes and tells my daddy about it. And then what happens? Steven gets his ass beat. So, my brother is a bit more sociopathic than I am.
So he was the golden child, though.
Mhm.
Were
Yeah,
you more of the black sheep scapegoat?
oh, I was, but I was also the one that my dad trusted the most.
Interesting.
I
Interesting
was in
dynamic
because
there, then.
I was independent. I was independent of him. I can tell you this: when my dad died, he left me everything. It wasn't much, but he left it to me
But not your
because
brother.
not my brother. He didn't leave my brother shit. He didn't leave my brother a damn thing because he knew my brother. I left. I was independent. I moved. I joined the military. I left. I did my own thing. I was autonomous of my father, which showed strength. Like you can make a narcissist respect you by being autonomous of them and being your
Well,
own person.
they respect power and they respect strength. That's two of
They
the big
hate
things.
you for they
They'll
hate you
hate you, but
they
they only
hate you
hate
for
the
your
people they
autonomy,
respect.
but they respect it.
Yeah, big. Yeah, but those. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my dad was that way. He hated me for my autonomy. The time that my brother snitched on me when I was about 16 and he was gonna try to beat my ass over what I did, which I don't even remember what I did. Probably because I was so narcissistic, whatever it was, wasn't my fault. Right. But he tried to beat my ass and I was like, well, you can come out here and try. But I got this bat that says I'm this much bigger and this much taller than you now, and I'll whoop your ass. You ain't touching me. Never again. There comes a point in every narcissist's life where they say, enough is enough, and nobody's going to abuse me. Nobody's going to tell me no. Nobody's going to hold me accountable. Nobody. And I'm trying to mix it in with what I'm saying here so it doesn't sound victim. Okay. But there comes a point in every narcissist's life when they say, enough's enough. I've had it. I've had it. And you're not going to tell me no. You're not going to beat me. You're not going to shit on me. You're not going to piss on me. You're not going to ruin my life. You're not going to tell me what I have to do. You're not going to make me a slave. I'll make you a slave. I'll make you the fucking bad guy. I'll make you the person who wishes that you were never born. And that's how a lot of narcs do it because we're children. I can't stand up to my father who is so much bigger and stronger and more powerful than me. But when we get to a certain point where when we can stand up, here's the deal, narc parents. I don't have a whole lot of fucking sympathy for you guys. I really don't. That's why y'all shouldn't call me and ask me for advice because I'm gonna be on your kid's side, not your side.
I mean, and rightfully so in many cases. But do you think a little bit of that's resentment on your part, or just like just viewing their situation as what it is? They don't deserve it.
They don't deserve it.
Yeah,
They don't deserve it. I didn't deserve it. You know.
sure.
I don't even resent my father, honestly. I really don't. And the only reason why I even realized I was being abused by my father, like emotionally, like up in my head, logically, thinking about it, was through therapy. I mean, I didn't even realize I was being abused.
Right.
I had so much cognitive dissonance going on. I had no idea that
Where
I
are you from
was.
anyway? You grew up in Tennessee?
Texas. I'm from Texas.
I wouldn't have thought Texas. I thought you had
Why?
like a
Why?
southern
What's the draw?
accent.
Why? Oh, is it? I'm not being Matthew McConaughey enough. All right, all right, all right.
That
Let's
sounds
take
similar. That's him.
let's take our shirts off and play on the bongos. All right, all right,
Yeah.
all right.
All
Yeah,
you have to say
yeah,
now is
sexy.
I get older and the girls stay the same age, and
Yeah,
you
I
sound
get
just like
older and
Matthew.
I get older and the girls stay the same age.
See, you got a good Matthew
Yeah,
McConaughey.
dude, narcissistic chameleons, man. If you put me up north with a bunch of northerners for a couple months, I'll sound just like them.
I mean, I could see that. I could see that happening.
Yeah,
But so
we just
Texas.
emulate other people. We don't have a self identity.
Now you think though that I know borderlines definitely don't. I've had the
I
thought that
definitely don't.
narcissists have a little bit more
We do.
of something.
Our identity is what I just did just now. Our identity is made up. So I say this a lot. Narcissists create their identity, their grandiose false self, their grandiose mask, idealized, and borderlines never learn to do that. So they take on the identity of their partners a lot of times. They end up taking on the identity of the person they're with. Um, but it's like a catch 22 with borderlines. So borderlines, they'll do that, but then they'll turn around and feel like they're being engulfed and that they're being absorbed by their partner and that they're taking their identity from them and that they're being controlled and shit. And they'll leave you because they feel engulfed that
Yeah,
you're taking over their identity. And it's like, but they don't have any fucking identity. So it's
right.
like a catch 22. It's like,
They
so
fear losing
they have an
themselves.
engulfment repetition compulsion, and then they have an abandonment repetition compulsion.
Yeah, I mean, and
They,
that's the push pull. That's the push
yeah,
pull
it
dynamic,
is.
right?
It
Because I think
is.
they fear the intimacy too. They fear too
They do.
close. Like they want it, but then when they
Oh, they
get it, they're
want
like,
it.
"Oh no, oh no."
Desperately want it.
Yeah.
Desperately want
I mean, that's one of the big things of a BPD is wanting that ideal love
it.
and like Disney movie, like almost every
Yep.
borderline I know, they love Disney or they love that fantasy stuff as a kid.
Oh yeah, of course
Almost
they do.
all of them.
Oh, very true.
Mhm.
Very true. Me too, man. I'm that way too. I have
Me
BPD
too.
also.
I was for
I have
sure.
BPD. I have BPD also. I don't talk about it much. My NPD kind of trumps my BPD. Like I present more with NPD. You can be dual diagnosed, but you'll usually have one that kind of presents over the other one.
Here, well, let's get ourselves in trouble here. I'll get in trouble for saying what I'm about to say. But I've was about to make the joke before that it should almost be a criteria of narcissism or borderline for women to be into astrology or witchcraft, because I won't say
So
everyone
true.
who's into it is a
So
narcissist
true.
or a borderline, but
Right.
every borderline or narcissist woman I know is into witchcraft or astrology, one or the other.
I won't disagree with you, man. My girl's into crystals and all that
Okay,
shit. Here, I got my
similar,
little crystal right here
similar.
somewhere. No, I actually used to dismiss all that shit as magical thinking. I used to be magical thinking too,
Well,
but
that's what it is, right? That's why they like it. They like it because it's the magical thinking
yeah,
a
it's
little bit.
magical thinking. It
Now
is.
they'll say
Anyway,
there's
I
science
can't find
behind
my
it, though.
crystal, but no, that's not something I've ever been into. But I was into religion a lot, and like Christianity. I went to Calvary Baptist Church since I was 14 years old. Magical thinking, I think, a lot of times makes them feel better. Like they have some kind of control over something that maybe they don't. Like maybe they feel like they can manifest things that, maybe they can change their environment, manifest it differently in some way to make them feel better. It can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing too, because a lot of times they'll put their faith in things that there's no way in hell it could be true.
Yeah.
you know, they will. I mean, for instance, since, and I know not, that's another thing. Narcissists think that they're super famous and that cameras are always watching them and everybody knows who they are. I know there's tons of people who don't know who I am. I ain't that damn famous. But we think we are, right? In our little magical world and our fantasy we live in. So I'll say this. So if you followed my page very much, you would know that I had a fallout with somebody who I thought was a friend, and they exposed the fact that I was married to a woman who committed suicide. And the only reason why I didn't try to erase all that information off the internet is I know the internet's forever. Like if you ever have a video of anything, it's going to be there. And if I were ever to try to erase it or deny it, somebody someday will bring it up and go like, "Well, didn't you have a wife that killed herself and all that stuff?" And I was like, "Well, there ain't no escaping it now since the asshole decided to fucking expose all that shit." But she did all that, and she was very magical thinking too, and she just couldn't let go of certain things that had happened with her brother and the death of her brother and stuff, and she went on and ended up doing what she did. But Cameron, I had told her about that stuff early on in our relationship because I overshared. That's why I tell people don't overshare with people, because sometimes they'll use it against you. And Cameron wasn't trying to use it against me, but because she was magical thinking, when we had a problem about a year ago,
she went to the crystals and went to the tarot cards and went to a medium and all kinds of stuff. And she asked the crystals and the cards and the medium and everything. She said, "Did Stephen unalive his wife?" And they said yes.
Oh no.
So what do you think that does to a borderline when she believes in all that magical thinking shit and the crystals and the cards and the medium said, "Yeah, he did." She believes
What'd she
it.
do? What'd
She
she do?
believes it. She believed it. She believed it, and she didn't trust me anymore. And she left and fled and everything else because she thought I might do it to her too, I guess. So the magical thinking and believing in all that bullshit. And I'm sorry if y'all believe in it. My apologies, but I ain't never pulled no fucking punches on my page, and I never will. The reason I have the following I have is because I'm clairvoyant. I'm transparent. I tell you exactly how I fucking think and how I feel. I've had a lot of people tell me that my page, my platform is the Howard Stern of narcissism. I just fucking tell it like it is. And if you don't like me for that, fuck off. I don't care because there's 200,000 people who do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like they appreciate my honesty.
So how did your girlfriend get over this though? She hears, oh yeah, he
She went
unalived
back
his
to
ex.
therapy. She went back to therapy. She started studying things and actually looking at logic and science and scientific method and repeatable things. And then also I proved to her that I cared and loved her and that I would not hurt her. Kimber's done things that some men would have really beat her ass for. I've never laid a finger on her. That's what I was saying this earlier. Like a lot of times when you try to say somebody who's narcissistic did some things or is a certain way or whatever, and we know that we're not, it hurts us even more because we know we didn't do those things. And depending on how healed you are and how high spectrum you are, you might go do those things just because you got accused of it. You might as well do it, right? But I ain't never laid a finger on her. I have never hurt her. I've never slapped her, hit her, pushed her down, or anything like that. And so I proved to her, which was what I was saying earlier, don't believe people's words, believe their actions, right? I've never hurt her, ever, physically at all.
Now, how
So
do you deal with the death of your ex like that? How does a narcissist deal with that?
I dealt with it swallowing 37 Klonopins or Zoloft. I don't even know what I
Yeah.
did it. Dude, if I'd have known more about medical stuff back in those days, I probably would have been gone because I swallowed some stuff that won't kill you. I
And
mean, it'll fuck you
37
up.
Klonopin's a lot.
Yeah, it'll fuck you up though. I just grabbed a bottle of pills and I was just like, and
Yeah.
just
To not feel.
drank a bottle of vodka and took a bunch of pills and tried to die. That's what I did. It was 3 months later. Like after she died, 3 months later, I tried to just end my life. That's how I dealt with it. You can hurt
I think
us.
in
We're
some
not
weird,
invincible. We're not
right.
invincible.
I think in some, like, have you ever fantasized about your own funeral and like the things people would say to you at your funeral?
Not really. I don't think about
No.
dying.
I've thought about
I'm
that
gonna
back
live
in the day
forever.
before. No.
Here I'll go back to BoJack Horseman. I'm Sarah Lynn. I'm gonna be living forever. Whatever. Now I
So
don't think
what
I
is your
don't think
favorite
about it
show,
too
by
much.
the way?
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead's your
Yeah,
favorite?
Walking Dead's my favorite. Yeah, I like The Walking Dead. I don't think about my death too much.
How about
That's
other
something
people's death? Like, so when that came around, your ex died, did you get all sorts of attention, sympathy, admiration, all that kind of stuff?
I didn't want any of it. I got reclusive. I got like kind of schizoid, and I locked myself in my castle, and I watched home movies and listened to old voicemails, and went through her bank statements and text messages and emails trying to find out why she would do something like that. That's what I did.
Did you find
No, I don't
anything?
want their fucking empathy and sympathy and pity. Narcissistic people don't want your pity. At least I don't. I mean, like I present more of a grandiose, overt style of narcissism, and
You know why they don't like pity? They don't like pity because pity is a little bit condescending.
it
And it's
is.
like you're
It is.
seeing, and that's why they'll say some people they think they're like feeling empathy, but it's really pity. Because pity is no, I'm better than you, and I feel
Yep.
bad for you that you're in this awful. So it's a different thing.
Mhm.
When I was listening to that book by
Out of
Chris,
control. I feel out of control.
yeah,
Like if you're pitying me, that means I don't have control of my environment.
Yeah, and I could see where that would be a different thing. That's absolutely a different thing. Christine Ann Lawson, she was talking about in her book about borderline mothers. She had mentioned that, and she had said, yeah, you should not be feeling pity, especially for like the waif borderline mothers. Oh, gone again. But they said, don't.
BPM.
Oh, there you go. You're back again. But they said, yeah, for some borderline women, the mothers that go into victim mode, pity is not what they need. And she was stressing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to
Yeah.
save them. They act like they need to be saved, but that's not what they need. They need accountability and empowerment. They don't need to be saved.
Yep, I agree with that. Now, I will say there's different styles of narcissism too. I mean, like
Of course.
I present more grandiose, overt, pathological, vulnerable narcissism is very different, like in its presentation, but they are the same thing. Like people get that confused too. Like, can I be a covert narc? Yeah, I can. If I have to be.
I think they get confused on what it means. I mean, all covert narcissist means is the narcissistic traits come out covertly. That's all it means. And you could do that.
Self-states.
Yeah.
Like, so the reason why I'm able to be grandiose and overt is because I have the fucking qualifications and everything to prove it, you know. So I say this a lot. I say that the grandiose narcissist is the accumulation and sum of their achievements. You know, like if somebody were to ask me who I am, I would list off all my achievements and everything I've done and everything I've accomplished. And that is me. When I say I don't have a self identity, I don't. No more than a borderline does. But I can point to lots of things. I can say, I'm a 7-year Army vet. I jump out of Black Hawk helicopters. I have shot every machine gun on this planet. I've scuba dived down to 120 feet and touched German World War II U-boats. I've had a record deal. I sing on the Grand Ole Opry. I had a song on the radio. I paint amazingly, you know, beautiful pictures, and I play 5 instruments. And we can name off all these things that we are, right? But of course, you never heard one time me say who I really am. I just named a bunch of achievements. That's who I am. Covert narcissists don't have that. That's the self state of a covert narcissist, a vulnerable narcissist. They still feel grandiose inside. They still feel entitled. They still feel better than other people, but they have nothing to point to. So if they have no achievements, and you were to ask a covert narcissist who they are, they would say something like, and it's hard for me to do it because I'm not a covert narcissist, but they would say something like, I'm the person who always tries really hard. I'm the person who will give you the shirt off my back. I'm the person who was never appreciated. I'm the person who could have been running this motherfucking company if someone would have recognized the greatness that I am. And so the difference between the two is that a grandiose, overt, classic, what everybody thinks of as a narcissist, is the sum of their achievements. And what a covert, vulnerable narcissist is the sum of their lies.
Dr.
Not
Mark Ettenson would
lies,
say that.
lies.
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Mark Ettenson, that would be the distinction he makes. Though I do know not every professional agrees with that distinction too.
They don't always agree with it. And if you look at Sam Vakin, he will actually tell you that it is just self states. But what I've noticed with my own life and some of the people that I know are also very narcissistic around me is that that's the easiest way to explain it. You know, because we neither the covert or the overt knows who they are. The overt is just better at proving that the idealized false self is true,
I
right?
think generally, and here's an interesting thing too. It's how much of our self-worth should we be getting from our achievements. And because some people would say in the perfect world, none of it should be coming from your achievements.
Shouldn't be.
But I don't
It
think
should
that's
be what you
realistic
do for
though.
people. If you're being honest
But you're
with
still
yourself,
doing something. So like doing something is an achievement.
you know, I say all the time I'm a German Shepherd. You got to give me a mission. You got to give me something to do.
Yeah. But
You
I
know,
think it's an interesting philosophical question, especially for guys too, because they say, have you heard the expression men have to become and women just are? And there's a lot of
I've heard
times.
that before. I don't really agree with it, but
Now, I think
yeah.
it's an interesting thought-provoking question, I think. Because for men, for example, there's not too many homeless dudes that women are going to want. And why is that?
I mean, well,
Because
because
men need to be,
they can't
because
provide a damn
men,
thing for
right,
them. I mean, like what? Yeah.
men need to become something. You need to have something of value for people,
Mhm.
and other men included, to find you in high regard.
That's true, but it kind of goes to gender inequality when you talk about it that way. Yeah, because
But men and women are just different too, though. Like
well, no, they are. They're different, but they're equal. But they're different.
I equal
Um,
but different is I can
yeah,
get
equal
with
but
that.
different. So the reason I said that is because the first thing that came to my mind, if you want to dive into a narc mind here real quick. So the first thing I thought when you said that was that I have to prove I'm worthy of your love and prove that I'm worthy of your affection and prove that I'm worthy of your sex by providing something for you. I have to earn your sex. I have to earn your love. I have to earn anything that you might give to me in a sexual capacity. I have to earn it as a man. But, and again, I'm not saying this is what you said, but this is just where my mind went as a narcissist. Um, my mind went to you're saying that women just are because they have something men don't have that they can provide freely if they want to. I've said this many times. Men fuck who they can, and women fuck who they want.
Yeah.
So there's a certain degree to truth to that, and I don't know who made us that way. Maybe God made us that way. Who knows? But that's where my mind went on that. Um, Women need to understand that their value does not lie between their legs. I tell women all the time. I've said this for years, and I have a 13-year, it's about to be 13 this month, 13-year-old daughter, and I'll teach her this. I will teach her this. Build your own damn castle, and then you can decide who lives in it with you based on your own achievements, and then you get to choose like independence. And maybe that's a narcissistic thing. Maybe I'm too narcissistic, but I know that if you control your own life, and this probably is narcissistic when I say this, if you control your own life and everything around it, you get to decide who is there with you and who is allowed into your life. You get to build your castle and you can live, if I want to be schizoid here, if I want to bring schizoid core into it, if I build my castle and I build a moat around it, which is what a lot of narcissists do because we're very avoidant attachment style type people. I build my castle, I dig a moat, I fill it up with water, and I only lower my drawbridge to people I want in my life that benefit me in some way, right? If men and daddies and if they taught their daughters this, you'd see a lot of women who act a whole lot more alpha and are a lot more choosy about the men that they bring into their life. There's no reason why a woman in today's society can't do anything a man can do when it comes to finances or education or any of those things. Like gender equality has never been more attainable than it is today.
I mean, women are doing pretty good right now.
And they
Right?
are.
A
And they
lot of
are.
women doing
I'm
pretty
not saying
good.
they're not.
Oh, I
I'm
know.
saying that they shouldn't place the value of themselves between their legs.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
They shouldn't.
Which also reminds me, what do you think are the biggest differences between the way men and women narcissists present themselves? Do you see like women being more covert, for example, or what do you see?
I'd say you're probably right on that one. I do see women narcissists being more covert because men don't respond. When I say men, non-disordered men, normal men, they don't respond to that alphanism. Like alpha. Like what I say, build the castle, and then you can decide who you want to live in it. Men are different than women. They're no better, but
I
they're
agree.
different. Like a man doesn't give a shit how much money you make. They don't give a shit most of the time about the degree on the wall. They don't
Yeah.
care. Men are more attracted to your purity and your beauty. And I'm gonna sound real red pill when I say this,
No.
right? But I am not red pill. I promise you, I'm not. I do believe women have the same power that a man has. In today's world, women have more power than they've ever had to actually be equals to men. But I'm just telling you how men think. They have more power than they've ever had, but men don't care about your degree. They don't care about how much money you have. You'll see men who are millionaires end up with a woman who has nothing but beauty and grace and humility and wit and intelligence and all that. But the things that men value out of women are not the same things that women value out of men. And that's
Yeah,
facts.
sure.
That's facts. I'm not being red pill or blue pill here. I'm not being misogynist when I say this. I mean, like I told you prior, before I even said anything I'm saying now, I said, women, go build your castle and decide who you want to live in it.
And I think we're seeing that. We're seeing a lot of women
A
building their
lot of them are
castles
doing it.
right now,
A
and
lot of
some
them are
of them
doing it.
doing it on their OnlyFans dollars. We're seeing them build
That's
the
true.
castle on them.
That's true. That's true. They are. Yeah, so I'm not gonna dog a woman out for doing that sort of thing. I'm not.
I blame the
If you're
men
if
for
you're if
buying
you're
it.
gonna do it though, do it smart. You
Yeah.
know, do it smart if you're gonna do it, because men will judge you for that. They will. They will judge you for that. They absolutely will.
I mean, my issue is with the men who pay for it. Because I would say to those guys, like any money you spend on that is money better spent investing in yourself. Like to put it in Bitcoin. Like every cent you would put towards one of them, put that cent towards Bitcoin or
The men, the
getting
men,
some sort of
the men who
education.
pay, the men who pay for that shit are losers. I tell you, they are.
Well,
I ain't
most
never
of them.
paid for nothing like that. Not directly. Not directly. I paid for it in marriages. I
Well,
paid for it
they,
in mistakes
the red
with
pill
getting
people would
with
say,
the
"Oh,
wrong
they
women.
got you. They
But
got
I've
you with
never.
the divorce."
Yeah, it's happened a few
That's what
times.
they would
I've
say.
always said if I could like get myself under control and stop looking after broken winged birds and pick one with two strong wings with a castle, I'd probably be doing a whole lot better for
I
myself.
mean,
But
the
I'm
guys
a
spending
fixer,
money
man. I'm
on
a
it
fixer.
are
Yeah,
lonely. They're lonely guys for the
yeah.
most part, right? They're lonely. They're probably not successful with women. Some of them are probably incels. And, and here's the thing. I feel bad for them. Now, the ones that go into like the hate group misogyny version, that's a
Oh
different
my God, you're
story.
wrong. I have a
But
daughter. My ideas of things changed a lot when my daughter was born.
I'm sure they did. How did they change for you, though?
I realized that I have a daughter. She's a woman. She's a female, and I expect her to be treated with respect and kindness and love and compassion and patience. And a woman who understands a man who has a daughter will learn how to manipulate him in such a
Oh,
way
no.
to
Who,
remind him of that. My
who,
girlfriend now, she says it all the time. I mean, like, trust me, I actually don't start any arguments with Cameron very often at all. I mean, I really don't. And that's not my narcissism. That's truth. You can ask her yourself. Anytime y'all think I'm bullshitting y'all, I encourage you to reach out to my girlfriend. She'll tell you the
yeah,
same shit I'm
she
telling you.
could
I don't
pop on
lie.
here next time, too.
Yeah. And I'll get her on. Um, but when I had a daughter and I realized that, you know, there's certain ways I would want my daughter to be treated, certain ways I wouldn't want her to be treated. If a woman gets with a man who has a daughter, she does have a leg up in the game, because if the guy's worth his salt and he's any kind of gentleman at all, any kind of father, he will be susceptible to things like, would you talk to your daughter that way, Stephen? Would you raise your voice to your daughter that way? Would you do that to your daughter?
Sneaky. It's a sneaky thing to
It's
say.
sneaky.
I mean,
It's
I
good.
get it.
It's smart though. It's very smart. It's
My
very
little
Machiavellian.
brother has 3
It's very
daughters.
Machiavellian.
And
Yeah.
it does change. Like when you're around people that are much younger like that, or his kids are like 2.5 to 12, you see things in a different light. Because as a guy, you go through your teenage years, college years, 20s years. Like you think of women your own age, you're thinking dating and sex stuff.
Yeah.
But then when you have a daughter or you see other younger family members, then all of a sudden it's not that way anymore. Like no, you
Mhm.
see in other angles, because the same thing when you're a kid. You don't think
I'd
of
say you
sex when
see
you're a kid.
perspectives. You see
Perspective is the
perspectives
right word
that you
for it.
didn't see before.
Right. But when you're a young boy, like before you hit puberty, you see women as like your mother or your grandmother or your aunt and sometimes your sister, right?
Mhm.
And you're not thinking things through a sexual lens. Then
Right.
you hit that phase though, then like your mother and grandmother, you don't think about that as much anymore, but you think about the girls your own age. You're like, oh, I want to date. I want to do this. I want to do this. And then you get older, you have kids yourself. And especially when you have a daughter, then that perspective really changes. Like, oh shit,
It
like
really does.
what's
It
going
really
to
does.
happen when this girl's what 15, 16 years from now, she starts dating and whatever, like, oh my God, what kind of dad am I going to be when that starts happening? And for you, that's only a few years away.
Oh, it is only a few years away, man. And the thing with daughters is that, you know, from a narcissistic standpoint, from an MPD standpoint, it's like I already learned a long time ago that my daughter is not me. You know, like I have better whole object relations than I used to have. So I know my daughter's not me. She's her own person completely. She might share some traits with me. She might share some interests that I have and whatever else, but she's not me. I'm not her. And I can't control how she grows up and what she does. I mean, my dad was a helicopter parent. He was he knew where I was every second. When I got divorced, like 7, 8 years ago, I realized that my influence over my daughter was going to change a lot. Like I was not going to be able to be there all the time. I wasn't going to be a helicopter parent at all. Like literally all I can do now is that the time that I do spend with my daughter, all I can do is try to instill values on her and self-respect and things like that to try to help guide her. But at the end of the day, she's her own person. And I can no more control her choices in men than I can control her choices in cereal. you know,
I think as a
and
narcissist, though, also you'd have a leg up in the fact that you would know the narcissistic people, they would not want to be controlled at all or have any kind of helicopter parent around them. For me, my parents were like that a little bit. I hated it. It
I
was the
hated it too.
worst. All I
Caused
did
me
was
to
rebel.
rebel. Caused me to rebel.
Yeah, and that's
Rebellion is a common thing that you'll see in people with borderline personality structure. Borderline personality organization, rebellion's a huge thing.
yeah,
You know, like, yeah, just don't control me. Don't try to control me. Let me be autonomous. Let me have our own thing. You know, like a lot of people don't understand, like, a lot of the stuff with MPD is based around recreating our childhood. And this time we get to win. This time we get to separate from our primary care provider. We get to be our own person, be autonomous of them. And what's so screwed up is a lot of times people with narcissistic personality disorder, they try to recreate their childhood. And so, as Richard Grannon even says, they don't come into the relationship to make it work and be with you. They come in to leave. And there's a little bit of truth to that. There's probably a lot of truth to that.
well, let me ask you this. So with a borderline woman, I know what they say with, and I should say man too, but with a borderline, they want that narcissistic parent's love. So they'll chase and they'll chase and they'll chase and they'll chase. They're trying to solve that attachment wound from that
Mhm.
narcissistic parent that way.
Yep.
And is there a
Narcissists
bit,
do that too. Narcissists do that too.
is there a
I'm,
bit of
I'm
that
continually
dynamic with your
chasing the
girlfriend?
interject of my father. I'm continually chasing the validation and the love and the attention of my father that I never got. We're all chasing somebody. And usually it's one of our parents or both of our parents.
And that's where inner child work would come into play. That's where the attachment wound healing would come into play. Reparenting yourself, like you
Yep.
said before, all that. I mean, do you believe in healed? Is there such a thing as healed, or do you think it's just an ongoing process forever?
I used to not think that narcissists could heal. I used to think all we could do is just change our behaviors. That's what I used to think. And there's still tons of people who think that, and you'll hear it every day. Like if you really
I say
deep
that.
dive.
I say that. Coming, I haven't seen a narcissist healed, and I would say
Mhm.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Mhm.
If I see it, okay. But as far as I know, I haven't seen it yet.
I think if you're lower spectrum, I think if you're not. So NPD, actually, I haven't done a long video in a long time, but I did one a couple days ago. It was like 16, 17 minutes. For me to do a 17-minute video, that's rare. I don't really do that very often. I'm a king of short content. But I'm trying to get back on. I'm trying to move over to YouTube too, and because I have a lot to say. Obviously, I've been talking my head off this entire time, right? So I don't make very much long content, but I do believe that narcissists can heal. I used to not think that. I used to think that all I can do is change my behaviors. But here's the thing: all of my behaviors and my maladaptive behaviors are all primitive childhood behaviors. You know, splitting, disassociation, and that's more related to BPD than NPD. Um, my inability to understand that people are not me and I'm not them, my whole object relations and my emotional permanence, for instance, like emotional permanence is understanding that people can be good and bad, and at the same time they can be those things, which
Right.
also goes back to black and white thinking and splitting. Emotional permanence is also understanding that just because they aren't texting me every 24 seconds or telling me they love me every single day or whatever else, those are all childhood defenses that I'm learning to grow out of through the reparenting, right? Um, the brain is very plastic, and we have neural pathways that are constantly being changed and whatever. So, if I touch a hot stove, my brain starts to associate the hot stove as bad and it's going to hurt me, right? So you learn to not do that. I started to learn that yelling and screaming at my partner and losing my temper and being completely impatient and not seeing their perspectives on things doesn't really help me at all. It doesn't help them at all. So now I'm not so quick to do that. I'm not so quick to judgment. Don't get me wrong. My first response is usually narcissistic, usually,
Hmm.
but I have learned to chill the fuck out. Like
Right.
on some of that stuff, right? I've learned that certain things make it easier to do that, like not drinking, not, like not putting substances in
Yeah,
my
you got to stop the
body that,
self-inflicted wounds. I think
yeah,
it's a big one.
self-sabotaging and everything. I
Let me
do
ask you this
think, I
question,
do
though.
think we can heal. I do think we can heal.
What if the splitting resulted in adapting a narcissistic mindset to protect or strengthen the child?
Say that one more time.
What if the splitting resulted in adapting a narcissistic mindset to protect or strengthen the child? And I'm trying to understand what they mean by that. Do they mean you?
What if the splitting resulted in adapting a narcissistic mindset to protect or strengthen the child?
And when they say
Well,
child, I mean
that is
themselves.
that. I think what they're asking is like, I don't know. It's just a very confusing way that they ask that. I think what you're trying to say is, what if that's what caused that? That is what causes that. That is why they do it to begin with, to strengthen the child. Like children are all narcissistic. They're all narcissist. I mean, everything they do is self preservation, and the parent is the is the tit.
Right.
Children don't have any kind of intellectual or emotional intelligence of any kind. Like they literally think their mother and father is their life source.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, everything they do is narcissistic when they're children.
And
You
here's
have
the
to
question.
learn to. That's the autonomy thing we were talking about earlier. Like as you grow older and you become mature, hopefully your parent has taught you these things, that you have to move beyond those primitive childhood defenses, which is, those narcissistic defenses. That's why, when you become older, you understand things like, okay, well, it's not mom's job to feed me no more. Now I got to get a fucking job and feed myself. And narcissistic people, a lot of times, it depends on what. I mean, it gets real complicated, but covert vulnerable type narcissists, they don't understand that I got to go out and get a job and be successful and do my own thing and feed myself or whatever. They're like, no, I need a mommy. you know I need to find a bitch who can pay my shit.
And that's a
So,
trope you hear a lot, right? In the narcissistic
yeah.
space, the narcissistic guy turning the romantic partner into their mother.
Yeah, it happens a lot. It happens with grandiose too, but grandiose overts, like me, I never had that. And that's what I'm saying. Like all these are adaptations for survival. Like me, I never had it. I never had that. I never had a mom to do any of those things, and my dad literally just provided life support to keep me alive. I had to learn how to do all those things on my own. That's one of the reasons I joined the military. The main reason I joined the military is because I was broke,
Yeah.
and because I was 17 years old and wasn't nobody taking care of me. And like once a lot of narcissistic parents, once you get old enough and you got your feet under you, they're not going to take care of you no more. Like they look, I got you here. You're still alive. You're 18. For me it was 17, but you're 18. You're still alive. I got you here. Now it's on you. I'm relieved.
Yeah.
You're dismissed. Now it's you. So that was
Well,
me. Like I was dismissed. So
what does
no one's
healed
going to
look
help
like
me.
to you, though? What does healed look like to you?
Healed to me looks like being able to hang on to my feelings of love and compassion and empathy and want to and happiness with somebody. That's what it looks like to me. To me, healed looks like being happy with somebody and myself at the same time, to where I don't have to just keep proving to everyone that I'm good enough or that I'm lovable. That's what healed looks like to me. Like when I just sitting in my own skin, just being happy, just not needing anybody anyway. And not in like an avoidant way, but like in a, if you're not happy with me and you want to go, then I wish you well on your way out the door. Like, not fuck you, get the fuck out, I never need you anyway, but like if you're not happy with me, that's not my job to make you happy. You got to be happy. you know I saw a video years ago with Will Smith, and he was talking about this. And that, dude, this stuck in my head, like even way back in those days, even before I self-aware did any therapy or anything. It just always stuck in my head what Will Smith said about that. He's like, it's not my fucking job to make Jada happy. Like, she got to be happy on her own, you know? And that stuck with me. And that's kind of my thing. Like, healed to me is, I want you here with me, but I don't need you here with me. And I fucking got into an argument with Cameron the other day, honestly, like maybe a week ago. And I even told her that. I was like, I want you here with me. I love you and I want you to be here with me. But you got to want it too. And it's not my job to make you happy or make you want to be with me. Like, you just should want to be that. You hear women say that all the time, like when men are ignoring them. And that was me too. That was me. I was that guy. I was like, no, I'm doing my thing. I'm out here trying to build my empire and secure all these other sources of supply and stuff. Because that's the thing with narcissists. They're very empty inside. So even if they ain't cheating on you, they're trying to pile up their, like what I said earlier, their achievements, right? Trying to pile those up, because that's what makes us feel whole. It makes us feel like we've done something with our lives, or that we're worthy, or that we're lovable, by piling up all these achievements. Because what did I say? A grandiose narcissist is the sum of their achievements. So a lot of times, like, my biggest sin in relationships has always been, I have you, you're locked down, I have control of you, you're going to be there no matter what. Because why the fuck would you fuck this up? It's the best thing you ever had. Why would you fuck this up? And then
And
I
they do
was,
that in family too. I mean,
they do
some
it too.
narcissists
Yeah,
have
they do it
family
with
members too in
family too.
family.
That's another thing too. Healed to me also is like wanting friends, and actually wanting to spend time with friends, and then like appreciating what they like and not just what I like. And that's healed. I gotta love myself, and I gotta find myself too. I gotta like find out who the fuck I actually am and what do I like, because everything my whole life has been not what I liked, or what I thought I liked or anything. It was always like trying to make someone else happy. And people don't understand this about narcissists. Like, we're people pleasers too. We have shitty boundaries. We don't have to tell people no. It's like,
Yeah, there
because
definitely is a people-pleasing version of
yeah,
narcissism as well. Yeah.
100%, 100%. Like me, like they'll be like, Steven, what do you like? And I'll be like, I like whatever you like, and whatever and whatever and I'll like whatever you like so that you'll like me.
Right. And that's like, I call it the manipulative people-pleasing version, to get kind of like that
Yeah.
fuel. And so heal to you, though, is not even needing that fuel, not even
Yeah, not
needing
needing it. No,
narcissistic supply.
I don't want to have to need supply. Like, I don't want admiration. I don't want, not that I don't want it, but I don't want to have it to feel whole, to feel
Right.
like I deserve to be here, or that I deserve to be loved. Like, I should love myself
Right.
and not.
You ever seen South Park?
I used to watch it back in the day, like
Yeah,
way
so
back.
the
Way.
one episode with the devil, and he's talking about
Yeah.
how everyone's got a hole in themselves that they're trying to fill. And it was kind of talking about AA and NA stuff.
Yeah.
But to an extent, I do agree that's true to an extent. I think everyone does have a little bit of a hole in them.
We
And
do, man. It's getting worse too.
I think with social media and for many other reasons, it's getting worse
Yeah.
too. But I also think everyone uses something to escape somehow. The only variables are what they use and how frequently they use it. But I mean, name me one person you think that isn't using a single thing, whether it's narcissistic supply, drugs or alcohol, gambling, sex, shopping. Like, who's doing absolutely nothing? Almost no one.
I couldn't tell you. Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
So to me, that's a humbling thing to remember. So whenever someone gets on their high horse about things, they can remember, well, we all got a little bit of that in us. I think we're all using something to some extent.
Very true. Very true.
A good reminder. It's a good reminder, I'd say.
I've had times in my life where I was like pretty content on my own, but not for long. You know, like there is certain elements of my personality that I know are mine and things that I genuinely do enjoy. I can tell you how to tell when it's really you. I've learned this over the last 3 years, like what's really you and what really is your NPD or your narcissism or your, your narcissistic tendencies. If you find yourself like truly enjoying something that has nothing to do with anybody, and you don't worry about how it makes you look or what somebody might think about it or anything, like just something you truly enjoy yourself that makes you feel good, like that's you. Like for me, like I've learned like there, a lot of things I thought were for me were not for me. They were for other people. They were because it made me look good, or, like a lot of times people have this misconception that narcissists just want to hurt you and tear you down and make you bad, make you feel bad about yourself, and they demean you to where, that way they feel better about themselves because you feel like shit. Now they feel better because you feel like shit. That's a misconception and a generalization and a stigmatization. There's been plenty of times in my life where um, I actually wanted people to smile, and I wanted to be the
Sure.
one who put it there. Like it made me feel good to put that smile on their
Yeah, I
face.
mean, and that happens for sure. I
Yeah.
think, but both sides happen, is what I would say. Sometimes they want to make you
Mhm.
smile, but then if you like get turned, then maybe they'll split. Then they want the opposite. Then they
Yeah,
want
if
to
they
get that.
split, it's a different deal. Yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
for
and that's
sure.
borderline
It's just
split.
there's so much nuance in it. Uh, it's just not black and white, and a
Right.
lot of people think in black and white. Even victims of narcissistic abuse think in black and white. I can tell you, if you as a person are a victim of narcissistic abuse and you don't move on from it and you don't learn from it and you don't get better and you end up in a relationship after relationship after relationship with these kind of people, you do have to do some self-searching and look at yourself, because I can tell you I've talked to a lot of normies, neurotypical people. I call them normies. I got that phrase from Sarah from Cluster B Milkshake.
Oh,
I
she
heard her
said
say,
that, huh? Okay.
yeah, she said normies. I try not to steal people's shit. I do my best not to steal
I
their
haven't seen
shit.
her around recently. Is she still around?
I still watch her shit, even though she blocked me.
Oh
she,
man.
she
So
she
she has
blocked
new
me.
stuff though. She
She
has new
blocked me a
stuff.
long time ago. I don't know even know why.
Maybe she blocked me too. I just didn't know it.
I don't know, but she's on YouTube. She still does. I still promote her. I don't care if she blocked me or not. I like her whether she likes me or not. But I learned that term from her, normies. Um,
And she
it
probably learned that from AA and NA because
or
that's what they say
somewhere.
there.
She learned it somewhere. Shakespeare actually said, "There's nothing new under the sun."
But he's right about that.
So if people want to say that we're just accumulation of all the shit we've stolen or taken from other people and incorporated it into our personality, that's true to a certain extent. But even Shakespeare said, "There's nothing new under sun." There, everything that you've ever thought, everything you've ever come up with that you thought was yours, somebody else thought of it before you did. They really did. So that's another stigmatization and generalization about MPD, is that we just steal everybody's shit. Now, don't get me wrong, we steal a lot of people's shit,
Hmm.
but no, nobody has a new fucking idea. That some human. We've been here for thousands and thousands of years. Like anything you think you thought of, somebody else thought of before you did. But you have to find like what makes you happy, like truly makes you happy, and what is yours. Like I'll give you a perfect example. So like my fucking sheets on my bed right now. I like these sheets with the stripes in them
Yeah.
and a certain thread count, Egyptian cotton, and I like those. And it's not because I think it looks cool or because somebody's gonna see my fucking sheets and think like, well, Steven's very into like expensive things or whatever. No, I just fucking like these sheets. Like this is my thing. I like these sheets. It makes me feel good about myself. I like sleeping on them. They're soft. They look cool, and that's my thing. The only person's gonna see this shit. Well, now you all saw them, but the only person gonna see is me and Cameron. But regardless of whether I had a woman in my life or not, I'm gonna buy these kind of fucking sheets because that's what I like. And that's my personality. That's me, and I know that's me. And that's having to, as a narcissist, pick out the things that really are you and your personality and things you like. So that's part of healing.
You know what I would say
Is
to that
figuring
is
that out.
that's figuring out what is the 3 A's. You know what the 3 A's are?
I don't.
Attention, admiration, and acknowledgement. What things you do for those things versus what things you do just for yourself, like the
Hmm.
things that make you happy.
Yep.
But here's a question for you. Like one day, what would you like on your tombstone? What would you want that paragraph to be on your tombstone about your life?
I don't like to think about shit like
Ah,
that. I'm never gonna die, man.
oh man.
I'm God. Remember, I live forever. Dude, that's something that's funny. Like it's funny. That's a good question because most narcissists don't think about that kind of shit.
It's like a legacy. Or what's another
I
way to
don't think
answer
about
that
that.
to answer that
Well,
question?
one of the things about narcissistic people, like one of our biggest fears, is being irrelevant, invisible, insignificant, or like people forgetting about us and shit, right? So I don't like to think about that kind of stuff. And what sucks about it is that if you start thinking about that stuff and you really, really break it down, no one's gonna remember you. Like you yourself, Jared. You have kids? No
Not that I
kids.
know of.
Okay. So, not that you know. I like that. Well, I got kids. If and I hope they don't make me a grandpa anytime soon.
Eh,
The only one could probably maybe my son could make me a grandpa. Hope he keeps it. Wrap it up, son. I ain't trying to be no grandpa anytime soon. We don't like to age. We don't like to. We're Peter Pan. We have Peter Pan syndrome. We don't try to age. We really do think a lot of ourselves, and we really think like this, like omnipresent God type situation. We don't like to think about shit like that. One of our biggest fears is being forgotten or not being special or not achieving a lot of shit, but the sad part about it is um, we're all going to be forgotten. And the reason I brought the children was so if I do the best I can with as many people as I can to get them to remember me and remember who I am, because I know logically I know I'm going to die someday. I mean, probably not, but logically, I have to admit I'm going to die someday. No one's going to remember you past like your probably great grandchildren. That's it. You could go walk through a graveyard and look at the headstones and look at the dates on those headstones. You'll see some like if you go into an older graveyard or whatever, you'll see people like from the 1700s and shit. Mary Blythe or
eh.
Julie Robinson, John Smith, whatever. Nobody knows who the fuck that is, and none of their family does either, because people don't remember this stuff. They don't keep up with their family members and history and genealogy. Nobody does that anymore. So narcissists don't like that. They don't like the idea that someday they're going to be forgotten, that they're not going to exist anymore. That's why I tell people no contact works really good, and that's why I say that if you want to get away from these people and you want to move on and not have them be a part of your life, and if you want to hurt them, if that's your thing, if you want to hurt one of them, make them irrelevant to you, and like they never existed to begin with, because that's a big deal for us. Because when we were children, we didn't exist. Nobody gave a fuck about us. They really didn't. And even the people who will go on and on about like, no, he was treated like a god. He was spoiled rotten. Da, 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 da. No, that's what you saw. That's what you saw. His parents didn't make him feel that way. His parents made the spoiled rotten ones, the ones that everybody says are spoiled
Well,
rotten,
conditional.
all conditional. They put that person's parents put them on the same pedestal and knock them off, put them up, knock them off, put them up, knock them off, the same way that your narc did to you. Like anybody watching this, I went through the same shit you went through at 5 years old. I don't want your fucking pity or your empathy when I say that, but I'm saying that I went through that shit as a child and I survived it. And here I am. I'm still doing what I need to do. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking about headstones. I don't want a fucking headstone. I don't want somebody walking through the graveyard and looking at my shit and being like, 2065, Stephen Ingram, the Bat Wolf, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's gonna fucking know. No, I want to live forever. I want
Your
to.
content will live forever, Mr. Batwolf.
Maybe.
Years.
I don't know. Have you ever seen a movie called Troy?
Yep.
Remember Brad Pitt?
Yep.
He gave up his humanity.
Well, he was Achilles in that, right?
He gave up his humanity so that he could live forever. And he does. Achilles lived forever, right? I mean, we all know who Achilles is, right? Is someday somebody gonna be like the Batwolf? We all know who Batwolf is. No, they're not. If they did, that'd be awesome. Well, hold on, I put it at the end of my video something. Right?
Good branding.
Yeah.
But I mean, here's the other thing to think about too. I think right now we're in a very unique time that anyone can turn on a camera and start uploading to TikTok, Instagram,
Very
Facebook,
true.
YouTube.
It's very
So
true.
it's a novelty right now.
Justin Bieber, good example. Justin
Yeah,
Bieber.
that's how he started on YouTube, right?
That's true.
So like right now it's a thing. And before that, there was always gatekeepers. There was gatekeepers protecting it into Hollywood. But I wonder what that's going to look like. Now, there's no such thing now. They've lost their power. But in 20 years, what is it going to look like?
Oh, it's going to be even worse, man, isn't it? It's going to be.
I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. That's the thing. It might be not even cool anymore.
If it keeps going the way it's going, you're right. It's going to be incredible.
Well, it's going to be weird. I mean, because sometimes it may be AI stuff. I mean, AI is already taking over now.
I know, man. AI is crazy, dude.
I mean, it's going to be. That's going to be big.
I've heard that people create entire personalities and people with AI now, and they just put out their videos, and it's not even a real person, and they've got hundreds of thousands of. Dude, people clone my accounts all the time. There's tons of Batwolves all over the fucking. Why do you think I got on Facebook? Because Lee Hammock told me one day. He messaged me. He goes, "Hey, Steven," he said, "Is this your account?" And I was like, "Nope, not me." And he goes, "They have 170,000 followers.
Oh shit!
And they're just posting your shit." And I was like, "What?" And it still took me like 3 or 4 months before I even.
Did they block you? I hear that's how they do it. They block you so you can't see them doing it.
None of them blocked me because they didn't know who I was. Like they didn't know who I really was, because I don't use the same name for my real account. I mean, Stephen Ingram is my real name, but I use my last name, or I made my middle name my last name on my real account, and so they didn't know it was me, I guess. But yeah, no, it happens. Like if you have more than 10,000 followers these days, you're gonna have a ton of fake accounts.
That's what my friend said. My friend Kelly said that.
Yeah. Social media has gotten really monetized. Do I make money from my platforms? Hell yeah, I do. I'll be honest with you. I don't give a shit about the fame. I do it for the money. I ain't lying. Which is a lot of people. If you know anything about ASPD or any of that kind of stuff, narcissists generally care more about, or grandiose narcissists usually care more about the fame and the supply and all that. But I learned a long time ago that the supply and all that, it's nice to have, but if you don't have money, you don't get no supply anyway.
So that's true too. Yeah. But I think what would happen is if you stopped, then you would notice the effects of the lack.
You're probably right.
Then that would happen.
It's too easy. It's too easy these days. Hell, I don't even make that much new content anymore. I just post old shit, and everybody thinks it's new.
So it works. I mean, shit.
It works, yeah.
But here you are. This is going to be a lot of content to repost up. Well, I'll repost it up.
Well, dude, I appreciate you putting me on here, and you are the only person I've ever done any kind of interview with or anything.
That's surprising. I'm surprised you've never done one.
I don't like doing it. I can't control the situation, so I don't like doing them.
Or do you think they try to pin you down on something?
I'm a control freak, man. I like to control my environment, and if I don't trust you, I'm not going to do an interview with you because I don't want you to make me look bad.
I would never.
Even though I don't care about the supply, like at this point, I don't care about it. I really just care about the money mostly. But I still don't want you to make me look bad.
Right. I mean, with me, you've seen all the people I've interviewed anyway, and you've seen how they can go.
So. I have, and I talked to you. I talked to you for a couple hours that one day, and you earned my trust, and so that's why I did an interview with you.
That's good. I'm glad to have you on here.
I'll promote you, man. I already do it anyway. I repost a lot of your stuff, and then I
saw that.
I made a video that one time that I missed the first interview because
Oh, you did? I didn't see that.
I have no concept of time. I really don't. And now that I work for myself, I really don't have a concept of time because I
get that secretary. You gotta get that secretary.
I really do. I do whatever the fuck I want.
That's true too.
I really do. I really do. I do whatever the fuck I want. And what I like doing, I like helping people, man. I like a lot of people think, again, they put us in a box. They put narcissists in a box, and they say that they're all evil, and they're satanic, and they don't give a fuck about nobody but themselves. And that's probably true with some of them. I bet it is. It's probably true. But like I said, I like putting smiles on people's faces more than I like putting frowns on it.
Sure.
I mean, I'll put
I
some
can see
fucking
it.
frowns on your face if that's what you want. If you want to fuck with me and be an asshole to me, I'll put some serious frowns on your fucking face. But I'd rather not do that. I don't want to do that. I like making people happy. I like making them smile, man. I'm an entertainer, dude. Dude, this is when I grew up, man. My father was horrible to me. If I can make that man smile and I can make him laugh, I ain't getting beat.
That's why a lot of comedians do what they do. A lot of comedians, that
Yeah.
was their thing. That they only
Yeah.
could make people laugh. People would
Yeah.
like them,
Theo
want them
Vaughn.
around.
Theo Vaughn is one of my favorite comedians. After I got to know who he is and
You
listen
should
to
be a
some of his
guest on his show
stories,
one day.
I'd love to be a guest on Theo Vaughn's
I think you
show
guys would hit it
sometime.
off a little bit. I think you'd like your energy with his would splice. He's got that neurodivergent type thing going on,
Mhm.
that
Oh, I'd
Southern
love to show him.
Louisiana thing.
I remember when I first heard about Theo Vaughn, I was actually driving Uber one day. This back before I was able to make a living from this shit to where I do now, because I had a full-time job, but it's hard these days to make money. It is. It's hard for everybody. It's hard, especially people like me. They don't have like a bachelor's degree, formal education. you know, and even if you do have one of those these days, it's hard, sometimes, like business degrees, completely fucking worthless. Nobody go get one of those.
Nah, yeah.
Much better off in trade schools. But yeah, no, I had a passenger one day, and me and the passenger hit it off, and we were talking and shit. And he goes, yeah, did you see that Theo Vaughn interview with Donald Trump and whatever? And I was like, Theo Vaughn, who the fuck is Theo Vaughn? Of course, I knew who Theo Vaughn was, but I just didn't know his name. Like he had never come across my radar enough to actually know his name. And then I was like, who the fuck is Theo Vaughn? And then I looked and I was like, oh, I know who Theo Vaughn is. But that was the first time I ever heard of him. But then I started listening to a lot of his stuff, and I was like, man, I can relate to Theo Vaughn a lot. Like he sounds like he went through a lot of the same shit I went through. And like when you talk about the comedy and the humor, if anybody does follow my page, you'll see like I do a lot of that on my page and stuff, because
Priceless stuff.
dude, you gotta laugh so you don't fucking cry sometimes.
It's
You
the
really
best
do.
medicine. Laughter is the
Yeah.
best medicine.
Yeah.
You're not going to be laughing and miserable at the same time.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just
no.
not going to happen.
No, if you're truly laughing, if you truly have the joy, like I remember that back in church, like I got the joy, joy, joy,
I knew
joy
that's where you were
down
going
in
with
my
that.
heart. Where down in my heart? Yeah. No, seriously.
Yeah.
No, I was a real church kid growing up. But no, it is. Theo Vaughn's right about that. Like you got to laugh about it sometimes so you don't cry. Theo Vaughn has a lot of things that I really appreciate, and I've actually taken a lot of what he said and tried to sometimes. Uh, that's something you'll learn about narcissists. If we appreciate something about you or individual or whatever, we will emulate and also talk about and try to incorporate some of those things that make us feel better about, like, whatever it is that you're doing that makes us feel better. We'll incorporate some of those same things into our life. And Theo Vaughn, he has this one thing he said. He said, and I think it was from an AA video or NA video that he did, but he said something about, like, if you can have your thought, and I'm not quoting him word for word because I don't remember it exactly, but it was something like, if you want your actions to be something, your actions will follow your thoughts. If I'm saying this right.
Always. Always.
And what's the reverse of that? It's like, so you know what I'm talking about, though, because you were in AA and stuff like that, and so was Theo Vaughn. But that's what I mean. It's like your actions will follow your thoughts. So for me, it's like I gotta change my thoughts then. Like I can't be thinking these negative things, and I can't be like thinking everybody's out to get me, and I can't be thinking that the whole world sucks and that it's all shit or whatever. Because if I think like that, then it's gonna be that way. And that's something I actually did pick up from Theo Von that I thought was very very valuable that he said
Yeah.
that. And I also didn't know that, he'd been through so much shit. Like
And
as
he's
he was
very
a
open
child.
about it too.
He
And
is,
he's
he is, he
open
is.
about it in a way most people aren't. But he,
And I appreciate that about him. I really do.
I mean, him and
Like I
Bobby
think
Lee, I think, are very
people
open about it.
appreciate that, man. They do. They appreciate like, you know, being transparent about things. Like people ask me all the time, they're like, why am I so transparent? Why am I so honest? And you know, being a narcissist, you're like, why is he so honest and open about things? And what what people don't understand about MPD and BPD is that these are shame-based disorders. So if I can be honest with you and you're not going to shame me for that, and you're not going to dog me out for that, like if I can tell you that, yeah, when I was younger, I used to cheat on everybody, you know, and I didn't know how to really have relationships with people, and yeah, I stole shit, and I lied, and I manipulated, and I did all these things, and if all my comments are filled up with like, yeah, you a fucking piece of shit, narcissist, prick, motherfucker, and everybody hates you, you're a demon, you're gay, you're a demon, you're all these things. If somebody does that, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you the truth no more. Why would I tell you the truth? If my truth causes you to attack me, then why would I give you my truth? That would be dumb, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be pretty dumb? That'd be dumb even if you weren't a narcissist, even if you weren't a borderline. That would be pretty dumb to do that, to continue to do that. And I already told you earlier, I'm very Machiavellian too. Yeah, no, as long as my truth is rewarded, I'm gonna keep being truthful. I mean, I didn't learn to lie. I didn't learn to lie. I didn't learn to manipulate because I just wanted to do it. I learned to do it to avoid a beating. I learned to do it to avoid shame. I learned to do it to avoid being a bad person or feeling like a bad person. If I can be honest with you and tell you that this is how it is and this is why I do the things I do or have done the things I do, and that I'm trying to fix it and do something different, then I'll be honest with you. And I'll keep being honest. I'll keep being transparent. But if you're going to dog me out and call me a demon and call me gay and call me a piece of shit and tell me I'm not worth it, like I should go live on an island with the other narcs,
Oh, yeah, I heard that one
you
too.
know, then yeah, fuck you. I got no respect for you.
But
If
there
you
might
if you got no
always be
respect
people
for
who
me, I
do
got no
that.
respect for you.
There might always be some people who do
Well, there's
that,
gonna
though.
be, and I and
It's
I
going to be
know,
out
I
there.
know. Well, that's one of the things I'm learning to deal with too. You know, like I know that not everybody's gonna like me. I mean, I
Yeah.
want them to. I want them
Yeah, I mean,
to,
I
but
speak
I
the
know they're
truth,
not going to.
but some people are always going to try to come at you. It
Yeah,
just is what it is, part of the game.
that's very true. Very, very
And
true.
then I just try to remember things such as lions don't lose sleep over the opinion of sheep, or when you argue with a fool, then there are two. Those kinds of things really help me.
Yep. I like this one. Arguing with somebody or trying to encourage or help somebody who has renounced reason is like giving medicine to the dead.
Hey, I haven't heard that
Yeah.
one before. It's
It's
good.
a quote from this show I used to watch called Justified with Timothy Oliphant. I loved it. I loved the show. There's a lot of sayings I say from that TV show. Like Shakespeare said, "There's nothing new under the sun." If I hear something I like and it resonates with my life, then a lot of times I'll repeat it a lot. Like that's where I got that saying from. Because I don't want to plagiarize people. I like giving them credit. That's why I've always mentioned Sam Vakin a lot of times in my stuff. Because Sam hates it when people plagiarize his shit, and he hates it when people say his stuff as if it was their own. And I get it. I
Uh,
understand why. Because I do have a few original ideas of my own. And I don't like it when people steal my shit either. But yeah, so this one saying was, if you get up in the morning and you meet an asshole, you met an asshole. But if you meet assholes all day, you're the asshole. And that resonated with me. It kind of like helped me understand that I can't have such a negative outlook on life, and I can't like lay my problems and my deficiencies and my bullshit on everybody else on this planet.
yeah.
Like I have to take responsibility for some of these things, because if you're constantly running into assholes, who's the fucking common denominator here? Like who's
Yeah.
who's the person
That's what I was
that's
going to
really
say.
causing the problems? It's
Now, what was
you.
your thing with reason again? Someone wants to hear what it is again. So
What
you're
was it?
the pill, something about giving the pill to reason is bringing like, why would you give that to someone who's
Oh,
dead?
oh, oh. It's not mine. Like I said, it is from the TV show Justified, but it was like trying to reason someone, or trying to communicate with somebody who has or trying to help somebody who has renounced reason, is like
Okay.
trying to give medicine to the dead. And I know I'm not saying it exactly like they originally quoted it, but yeah, it's just basically what it's saying is that somebody who you can't get anything through to. I kind of in a way feel like they're talking about narcissistic people when they say that, because they are so blind, me included. I say they. I don't mean to lay the blame on other people. See, there's my own responsibility, taking accountability. Um, Narcissistic people a lot of times like to lay all that shit on other people, and they also like to live in a delusional fantasy that's not reality and take no responsibility for anything they do. So, I mean, you can't reason with them because they're unreasonable. They're dead a lot of times in a way. So, you're not going to give medicine to a dead person because it's not going to do anything, right? So, why would you try to reason with someone who has renounced reason?
Yeah,
And a lot
I
of
tell that to
narcissists are
people a
that way.
lot.
They have renounced reason. They renounced reason a long time ago. When they were little kids, they renounced reason. And you can make excuses for them. You can say, well, that's what they had to do to survive. And I say that a lot of times. I tell you, this is why they are this way, because they did have to do that to survive as children. But when you get older, you got to wake up from the dream. You got to wake up from the delusion. You got to start living better. You got to start trying to do things different.
And that's the other thing, though, too. People get really upset when a narcissist isn't reasonable. Like they really want them to be rational,
It's not
reasonable,
personal.
and collaborate. And it drives them
Yes.
insane when they're not that
Yeah.
way. But they're just not going. If they haven't done any work, they don't admit they have a problem. They're just not going to be reasonable, and they just have to accept that.
They're not capable of it. A lot of them aren't capable of it. They're not all like me. I think that mid
I mean, different
spectrum.
severities are capable of different things. As
Yeah,
I think, well, I should say.
yeah, I agree. The higher on the spectrum. So you have to understand that MPD is a defense to that borderline structure, to that borderline organization, personality organization, right? It's a defense to it. So the more defenses you have, I compare it to onions all the time. I say like, you get the raw onion, that's your borderline personality structure or organization. And then the more layers you have on top of the raw onion, those are your defenses. Those are the narcissistic defenses. The more defenses that they have, the thicker the peel on the onion, the less likely that you're going to be able to put reason into one of those people. They this is a this is a blocking out of reality. Like this is what we had to do as children. We had to block reality out, because reality was my dad is he fucking hits me all the time and tells me I'm a piece of shit. Reality is he tells me I'm unlovable, I'm ignorant, that I don't belong here on this planet. Like I don't even know why you're here, son. Like it's a wonder to me that you're still living, like you're still alive. You know, that's my reality. When somebody's making you feel that worthless and shitty about yourself all the time, a 5-year-old kid, a 6-year-old kid doesn't know how to deal with that at 5 years old, because the brain hasn't developed enough to deal with that kind of shit. So what do? You create a fantasy world. And sometimes those kids will even like create like imaginary friends and shit, right?
Sure.
Like if they go to school and they get, you say for instance that your father doesn't make sure you're bathed correctly, or you don't have one running water, or he's putting you in ratty ass clothes, or you get one pair of shoes a year and they're the cheapest $12 pair from Walmart or Target or whatever. And then you go to school, kids are cruel. Kids are cruel. So you go to school like that, and then you're wearing these shitty sneakers and these shitty old shirts. Now, a lot of times nowadays, that retro shit's in style, right?
Yeah.
Like my daughter the other day, she saw some Aerosmith shit that I had, like a little pin that I put on my hat and stuff, and she wanted it. She was like, "I want that, Dad." I was like, "Aerosmith? You don't even know who Aerosmith is." She's like, "Yeah, but it's cool, man. That's like retro shit." That I'm like, and I'm like,
They all do that now.
she
You
didn't
see the
say
kids
shit.
wearing Pink Floyd
Yeah.
shirts. They don't even know who
Yeah,
Pink
yeah,
Floyd
yeah.
is.
They have no idea who Pink Floyd or Aerosmith is or whatever. And she didn't say shit either. She didn't say like some retro shit. But she wanted it, and I'm sitting there going like, man, I wore that stuff because I couldn't get anything better. Like my dad just put me in whatever he could get. Hand me down. Some of my cousins, when I was a kid, would bring clothes over and stuff for me and my little brother to wear and stuff. But you go to school and you grow up poor like that, and then the kids at school are shitty to you too. You know, like you get all the shit at home. You know, you already have your parent or whoever telling you you're worthless, and then you go to school. Again, I'm not saying this to get your fucking pity because I don't want it. It's been many fucking decades since I ever had to wear a pair of fucking shoes that I didn't want to wear, or a pair of shoes with holes in it. I buy whatever the fuck I want now. I buy whatever I want, and I got 2, 3 pairs of the same shoe. Like I wear whatever I want. But when I was a kid though, it wasn't like that. You know, you're a kid, you can't defend yourself, and you have no control of your life. So that's one of the reasons why narcissistic people do this stuff, because they had no control of their lives when they were kids. So they live in this fantasy world, and like one of my fantasies when I was a kid was that I was like a military commander,
Hmm.
and I got all of my cousins and stuff involved in it, and I ran a little military group, a little militia. When I was like 10 years old, like when I was like 10 years old, and I controlled it too. And it used to piss me off when they'd step out of line. I mean, I ran it. But that was one of my little fantasies. But these people create these fucking fantasies in their heads, and that's how they survive it. So that they don't feel worthless.
Yeah,
And
you had some wild fantasies, I bet,
I
back
did,
then.
man.
Sure.
I had so many cool fantasies and things that, I like to talk about, and things that I like to do. And I
You like
did.
you
I
probably like a
create.
drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, dude, man. I created so many fucking stories in my head and like fantasies in my head and shit to get by. I never had an imaginary friend because I actually did find a real friend. Uh, his name was Craig, and I met him at a convenience store because my dad used to send me down the road to buy him cigarettes and stuff. So he put me on. He say, hey, I'll give you enough money to get you a Dr. Pepper and a Snickers and a little bit of change to play the video games if you'll go down there and get me some packs of cigarettes. That was back in the days when they would sell cigarettes to kids.
Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah.
Yeah, you're old enough to remember that. So yeah, he gave me some money and sent me down there, and I got to get a Coke or a Dr. Pepper. Everything in Texas is a Coke. Everything is a Coke. But yeah, I'd go down there, I'd ride my bike down there. It's called Tiny's Grocery Store, and there's this big fat Mexican guy named Tiny, and I love the shit out of that dude. He's always so nice to me when I come in there. And I'd get a Dr. Pepper, and I'd get a moon pie and a fucking Snickers, and I'd go play his video games. Had that game with the little kicks, and whatever. And then I always lose, but it was fun though. And
Foosball.
that was like one, yeah, it was like one of my little fantasies and stuff. But that's how kids are. That's how kids that grow up and develop these kind of disorders, when they have nobody and nothing, and then when they go to school and they have nobody and nothing. That's how we survived, you know. And I just figured out how to survive a little better than some of the other ones did. Like I told myself that I was invincible. I told myself that I was better than this. I told myself I was better than everyone. And I proved it so many times. That's why I tell you guys all the time, narcissists are the sum of their achievements, like the grandiose overt ones. And the ones that are covert and vulnerable, they're the sum of their lies. They're the sum of everybody was against me. Everybody, the whole world was against me. That's why I don't like pity. That's why I don't want anyone to pity me for the way the kids at school treated me. I don't want people to pity me for the way my dad treated me. I learned how to do better than that, and I did. That's how it really is. If you really want to know what it's like, that's how it is. But that's my perspective. That's my own experience. I know that I had it better than maybe some other people had. Like at least I was never touched in that
There's
way.
another
I
thing,
was
though. I
touched.
think
I was I was touched in a lot of bad ways.
I do think there's probably some covert narcissists that are successful. They just are covertly narcissistic as well. So I do think that's a possible thing. I do think
Well,
that's possible.
I think maybe people confuse covert narcissism and vulnerable narcissism, and maybe don't completely understand what it is.
Oh, they're gone
It
again.
doesn't mean sneak. Covert narcissism don't mean sneaky. It means vulnerable. It means you're vulnerable. It means that you don't have any evidence of your success.
Now,
And it's
are
a
you
tough
to
state.
consider
You can flip back and forth, but most people
do
are
you
either one or the
consider
other.
vulnerable and covert the same thing?
They are the same thing. It's
Yeah, because
covert
some
is a
people I
pop.
know don't say
Covert
that.
is a pop psychology word for it.
Okay. Because I know, so like Dr. Grande, he would talk about vulnerable narcissism.
Mhm.
But then other professionals, they consider them the same. Other professionals say they're different. And I guess
They
it
are
just
the same
depends
thing.
on
They are
who
the
you
same
talk
thing.
to.
Covert and vulnerable are the same thing.
That's
But
how
it's
I've
the
always
term. I'm
understood
talking
it.
about the terms. I'm talking about the terms, not like, you know, like what they
Yeah.
are. Covert means vulnerable. In
Yeah.
psychology, it's vulnerable. In pop psychology, pop culture, it's covert.
Yeah. And that's how I've always understood it.
Mhm.
But I think what I was saying, though, is I think there are ones that could be successful. They just have the
No, they
traits.
can because it is self states. You know, like you take
Yeah.
hold on one second because you know I told you obviously I have a borderline girlfriend, so I try not to ignore her because so I'm gonna let you say do your thing, man. It's your show anyway. Do your thing. I'm gonna text her and let her know what I'm doing
Okay.
real quick because I that's one of the things I learned over the last couple of years is that you don't ignore people and ignore their feelings, especially if they're sensitive to it.
So she's been trying to contact you.
No, just now she did. She tried to call me.
Okay.
That's why I
Okay.
flicked out. But she was at a concert with her folks and stuff. But I'm gonna text
Okay.
her real quick and let her know what
Being
I'm doing.
respectful of
I'm being
someone's feelings.
respectful.
Or
Yes,
what's the
that's
other
right.
word
That's
for
right.
that? Understanding.
Understanding, showing compassion,
That's another
empathy.
word for it, right? What's the
Yeah,
other one? Considerate.
considerate.
Considerate was the
Yeah,
word I was
exactly.
looking for.
See, I'm learning. I'm learning.
That's good.
So yeah, let me let her know what I'm doing so that she don't freak out and think I'm abandoning her
No,
or
no, I
anything like
can't.
that.
No fear of abandonment here.
No, I'm
No
not
fear of
gonna.
abandonment.
I'm not gonna abandon her. But yeah, I'll pop off for a sec, just a second. I'll come back.
All right, sounds good,
All right,
brother.
talk to you in a minute.
So long. We'll see. We'll see how long he happens here. We've been going on here for a few hours now. But if there's any other questions that you want me to ask him, I will. You can put them in the comments here too. But got clips for days from this whole thing here. It's the longest I've spoken to someone for a while. But some people, they interview themselves. And he's kind of one of the people that interviews himself. You know, he can just kind of go, which makes my job easier. Other people, it's not that way. And it's kind of like pulling teeth. But for some people, like the Bat Wolf, it just kind of flows. It flows. And before you know it, the time goes by. But I used to be one of the people that I had fantasies of the ideal love. And that was my thing. The ideal love fantasy and having some woman save and rescue me. And then people were calling me out about that the other day too. They said, "Oh, you're saying that's a borderline thing to do?" It's like, well, when you're seeing it more as a drug and them saving you, like making everything all better, that's where it goes too far. Anyone can fantasize about a romantic partner or whatever, but the way a borderline does it, that's going to be a little bit different. That's going to be extra fantasizing about that ideal love and having that person come in there and save you and making things happily ever after, such as a Disney movie. That's how I saw it. And I think the other thing was when you don't know who you are, one thing you might do is have imaginary friends and then create those fantasy worlds. But then you also might pretend to be movie characters too. And that's something I would do. I would, depending on my favorite movie at the time, I would act as if I was that movie character because I didn't have any self worth myself. I didn't have the confidence to truly be me. So I wanted to pretend to be somebody that I thought other people thought were cool. And sometimes it'd be Clint Eastwood or a Paul Newman character or a character from Pulp Fiction. And some women I knew, they would want to be Mia Wallace from Pulp Fiction. And that was their thing. But depending on where I was in life, I would look up to and idealize different kinds of movie characters. And that's a good question to ask anybody on a first date. Ask them who they look up to. Ask them the kind of person that they wish they were more like. And the answer they say to that question is going to be very telling because the answer of who they look up to is what they're striving for. That's the kind of person they want to be. And for example, some people might say, "Oh, imagine if someone says Trump. Imagine if someone says Obama. Imagine if someone says some sort of movie character." like whoever that character is going to say a lot about him. And we'll see if the Batwolf here comes back. His girlfriend might come on too. But I was talking. There he is.
I heard everything you're saying. I'll be honest. I held off coming back as quickly because I was like, man, he's making some good points. I'm liking what he's saying.
Good, good. So I can go. I can spitball myself for a while and talk to myself and talk to the audience.
Oh man.
But that's what I would say the distinction is with the borderlines and the ideal love is that when you think everyone's going to come in and save you and make everything all better like a drug, that's where I'd say it goes too far. Anyone can fantasize about some sort of romantic thing, though. That's different.
Well, what you said made a lot of sense too, Ben, because so one of the differences I think between vulnerable narcissism, covert narcissism, and grandiose overt narcissism is that nobody was coming to save us. Like me, I never had anyone that was coming to save me. I never did. So I didn't have a choice. I really did have to make my own way, do my own thing. And that's part of that survival thing too, man, because it's like, if you can't count on anybody and nobody is going to come save you, you have to learn how to save yourself.
That's
And so,
good.
so I did certain things. It wasn't always good to
Well,
learn how to save myself. Um,
that's how
but
you grow, though. That's how you grow
it
and
is,
build the
but
character.
I growed in bad ways sometimes,
Sure, that's true. Some
like,
of those adaptations might not
yeah,
always be healthy.
yeah, they weren't. A lot of them weren't. That's where that avoidance comes in. That's where that I don't need nobody. Like one thing that you'll see with a lot of narcissists when when you call them out on anything that they're doing wrong or anything, a lot of times you'll hear them say things like, "Well, I don't fucking need you. I never needed you. I was doing just fine before you got here. I'll do just fine after you leave." And a lot of them mean that because a lot of them did do that, but they're
Yeah.
kind
A,
of
f-
lying to you to a certain degree too,
a friend of
because
mine was
they
saying
can't
that
do it.
her ex was saying that to her, saying, "I don't need you. You want you want too much from me. You're not. I'm not any good for you. Go on, do your own thing, move on." And I think partially he's saying that because he knows it's going to get to her too. He knows that it's
That's
going to
true
bother
too.
her.
That's true. It's a manipulation tactic to a certain
Sure,
degree, but some of them mean it though. Like some of them, it
it
depends
could be
on.
both. It could be
Yeah,
both.
it can be
Like,
both. Cameron actually taught me this. Two things can be true at the same time,
yeah,
and that's something that's a saying I stole from her because she said that. She taught me that. She said
and she's right. She's
two
right.
things can be true at the same time. Yeah. So yeah, no, narcissists will use your abandonment fears against you a lot of times, especially if you let them know that you have them. Dude, I've done it a lot. I've done it for years. Like if I knew somebody had abandonment fears and I knew that they were trying to call me out on my bullshit, it's very easy for a narcissist to say things like that. To say things like, "Well, I don't fucking need you anyway. I don't need you now, whatever." And it could be over nonsense, man. It could be over some simple little bullshit. And like I'll give you an example. Cameron doesn't mind. She knows I don't throw her under the bus. But like last night, I washed and folded clothes and whatever. I always say I'm a good little housewife. My mom
Ah,
used to. I do. One of the memories I do have of my mother when I was younger. She bought me dolls and shit, and I'd comb their hair and give them baths and take care of them like they were on my kids or something, right? And she used to, I do remember her saying this. She would say, "Stephen, you're going to be such a good husband someday." I think it equates now if a guy said that to a woman, it'd be like, "You're going to be such a good sandwich maker someday. Like, you're going to know how to make some amazing sandwiches." But my mom told me that, like, when I was a little kid, I remember, and that had to be prior to 5 years old, and I still have that memory. But she would be like, "Yeah, you're going to be a good husband someday." So dude, I will. I'll wash clothes. I'll fold them. I'll cook you dinner. I won't just go kill the animal and bring it home. I'll kill the animal, bring it home, cut it up, cook it, and make you an amazing dinner with it.
Jeremiah Batwolf
You
Johnson,
know,
they
it's
call him.
like, I'm a damn good wife. I'll say that. But
Ah,
me, but
Mr.
me,
Wife.
yeah. But me and Cameron got into it last night because I was washing clothes and folding them and stuff, and she, unfortunately, she wasn't feeling too great too great, I guess. But we're shitty at communication too. Narcissistic people are shitty at communication. Like, we think you can read our damn minds. And Cameron's highly narcissistic too. And I know she won't mind me saying that because she's admitted it on lives and stuff too. But she's highly narcissistic too. She's not diagnosed with NPD. She's diagnosed with BPD, but she will admit that she's highly narcissistic. And so we got into it because I was like, "Girl, you've been laying around all day doing nothing but watching You." She got into You. I don't know if you know the
I
TV show I'm
know.
talking
The
about.
serial
She got
killer?
into that.
Or no, stalker, I guess I should call him.
Yeah, Joe
Is he a
Goldberg.
serial killer?
I only got through 2 seasons of You. I guess there's 5 now. I didn't know that, but now she's got me back into it too, and now I'm watching it with her.
I
But
can't
yeah,
remember. He might
yeah,
just be a stalker, but I'm not sure.
no, Joe Goldberg. They kind of portray him kind of like a malignant borderline in that show. Like, he's got sociopathic traits and stuff like that, but he's very
Because
borderline.
did he kill exes? Is that what he did?
He doesn't set out to kill them.
But
Like,
he
don't
did,
get
though, right?
But he did.
Okay.
So
So
you see,
that's where
let me
he's the
take up for
serial
Joe
killer.
Goldberg.
I've
Look, he
forgotten
didn't
the
mean to
show.
do it. He didn't mean to do it. They
This big
forced
show
him to
like
do it.
5 years ago. Like 5 years ago, this stuff was hot stuff.
Yeah, it was. Well, yeah, I guess it still is. Obviously, I mean, I don't know. Everybody's kind of got on the narcissism kick, and everybody, thinks that it's all fascinating. It's all shit everybody's
Well, I've
been
been
going
hearing
through
a
for
lot of
years.
documentaries coming out recently, too. There's HBO documentary,
Hmm.
Sam Vaknin documentary.
Oh, is there a Sam Vakin documentary? I'll
Oh,
definitely watch
yeah.
that. Definitely watch
Yeah.
that. But yeah, no, me and her had a knockdown drag out last night because I was like, you need to go get your clothes off the dryer. I was like, I folded them all up and everything. She threw a goddamn fit, dude. I mean, she ripped the clothes out of the closet, fucking turned the thing over in the deal, and I just sat over there and laughed and looked, and I was just like, really? This is what we're doing? And when it was all said and done, like 30 minutes later, she goes, I feel so dumb for doing that. She's like, all you asked me to do is go get my clothes that you folded and washed and everything off the dryer. And then she, apologized and everything like that too. So I will say that borderlines are more likely to apologize to you. They're more likely to show empathy than a narcissist would.
Usually.
Things
I mean, but here's the other
usually,
thing, though.
usually not always. Sometimes there's some
A
malicious
lot of
ass
borderlines,
people.
though, they might do that very same thing. But if it starts a split, like a real split, they could be gone, baby, gone. And then
They
all of a
can.
sudden,
They can. That's true. And they also can be very vindictive and revengeful. And even though they're acting like they're being apologetic and that they're understanding, like, you don't know what they've got
you can see
in
that in their
store.
smile
Yeah,
sometimes.
you
Like,
don't know
oh,
what
I'm
they got in
sorry.
store for you. It's like, oh yeah,
Well,
you shamed
sometimes
the
you
fuck
see the
out of
look.
me.
You know the
Hmm.
look I'm talking about. You see
Yeah,
some borderline narcissistic
yeah,
woman look. They got a little grin where like they're
yeah.
smiling, but it's
A
not the
little
good kind of
sadistic smile.
smile. Not
Yeah.
good.
Well,
Not
well, people don't understand about borderlines is that when they split, they turn into sociopaths. They split into a factor 2 psychopathy sociopath.
You know who I was talking to about that the other day? AJ Mahari. You know her?
I don't.
She was disagreeing with that because she doesn't like Sam
Oh,
Vaknin.
wait a minute. I know who you're talking about. Is she that older woman that's kind of a little bit heavy?
That's right.
Okay. I like her all right, but
I
she
talked
does.
to her like you. I talked to her for a few hours the other night, just like I've spoken to
Yeah.
you for a few hours today.
She has some opinion. I don't want to
I don't
discredit her
not
or
like her. I
anything.
think she's good. I might have
I
her on
watch some of
next.
her stuff. I watch some of her stuff. I don't totally discredit anything she's saying or anything, but I don't know. What is she supposed to be? Is she supposed to be a normie?
She's supposed to be a recovered borderline.
Oh, she's okay. Say no more.
Now she's big on the accountability. She's
Oh, I
big
know she is
on
on that. I know she is on that.
not
I actually
giving
agree
the.
with her on some of the things. Like, for instance, she
No,
brought up
she's
the whole.
smart. She just
Oh,
has
she's super
a
smart. She's
yeah.
super smart. She talks about projective identification a lot, which I actually I'm gonna give her some credit because I know it looked like I was scoffing, which I was a little bit. I ain't gonna lie,
Yeah.
I was scoffing a little bit. Uh, no, I like her all right. Like, as far as projective identification, I heard her speak about like empathy from borderlines one time. Like, she was talking about borderlines having empathy and whether they have it or not. And I remember one of her videos. I actually watched it, and it made a lot of sense to me. She said that borderlines don't have any empathy, no more than a narcissist does. If I don't want to, and I don't want to misquote her. I'm paraphrasing,
But
and if I got it
it,
all wrong,
it just
and if I got it all
depends.
wrong, then she can tell me I got it all wrong.
It
But from what I
depends.
understood, she was saying is that they don't have any empathy. They have this ability to use projective identification to relate to you in such a way that it looks like empathy, but that's not what it is. you know like if one of their friends who is a single mom that the husband left or whatever, and you're a single mom whose husband left, and they come to you and talk to you about it, and they're looking for support and empathy from you. If you are a single mom whose husband left, and they're a single mom who's single and their husband left, the borderline can now have lots of empathy for you because of your plight, because they can relate to your plight because they've been in it too. So they're projecting their own trauma and their own ex-husband onto that person, so that they're kind of just really having empathy for themselves, I think is what she was trying to
I
say.
think that can happen that way. But I mean, my thoughts on the matter are, how can anyone know what someone else is feeling or thinking? Like all
Really
any
been
of us
listening.
know really is what we think and feel, and we can guesstimate. That's I'm pretty good at guesstimating what other people are thinking and feeling, but I don't truly know 100%.
It's very true.
But I
Very
can
true.
guesstimate, and I think that's all any of us can do. So when someone says, "Oh, borderlines don't have empathy," I would say, well, maybe some don't, but I wouldn't say none do. Like, how can they know? How can they know what all of them
Very
do or
true.
don't do?
Very true. And my own narcissism blocks some of that out of my head too. I can admit some of my own flaws and mistakes in situations like this. Like I have my own subjective opinions about things, but I, dude, I used to not know what objective and subjective meant. Like I just said my fucking opinion, and if you don't agree with it, then fuck you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you what I think, and you're gonna agree, or I ain't your friend no more, or I don't give a shit what you think. But I've learned that I learned subjective and objective, and have tried to heal a little bit, and maybe not be such a dick. But you're right about that, 100%. Like who can know what someone else is thinking or whatever. Uh, I think what you
You can
can do
observe.
though is you can watch patterns. You can watch patterns from
Yes.
somebody and see what they're doing, and see if their words and their actions line up. And if someone's like, for instance, apologies. Shit, I can apologize with the best of them. Don't mean I mean it. Don't mean I actually give a shit. Don't mean that I care. It could just be, maybe I just don't want to deal with you no more today. Maybe you're giving me so much shit and I don't want to deal with it, or maybe you're bringing me shame, and maybe I got other things to do. Maybe I got an appointment. Maybe I got to get back to work. Like for instance, don't ever come at a narcissist or a borderline at lunch when they got to go back to work. No, don't do that. Um, they only have a limited amount of time to do whatever it was they had to do when they came home. And if you start trying to have a serious conversation with them about something they did fucked up, and you're trying to do it at lunch when they know they only got like 35 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever, they ain't gonna listen to a single word you say. They may not listen anyway, even if you did it in the evening when they get home, and they got plenty
Right.
of time to talk to you about it. But don't fuck with narcissists or borderlines at lunch. Bad idea. Don't fuck with them when they first get home from work. Give them 30 minutes to
That's a big one for
decompress.
me. That's a big one for
Yeah,
me.
don't do it. No, it's a bad idea. There's ways to navigate this shit. There is, and it's not walking on eggshells. It's learning patterns. It's learning your partner. Like you asked me earlier. You're like, how the hell do you and Cameron get along so well and actually don't have that many fights? I don't walk on eggshells with her. I learned her patterns. I picked up all of her metadata. I picked up all the things that set her off. Learned all her triggers and everything, and I avoid those fucking triggers like the plague.
She
And then
says
if
to you,
I
"Hi,
fuck
babes, you're
up,
doing great."
if my own grandiosity, if my own idealized self steps on her triggers and steps on the shit that I already knew, because sometimes I do, and sometimes I do it on purpose. I'm not gonna lie. Because sometimes it's fun, right? I mean, like we grew up in crazy ass households and stuff. Like Cameron will admit this too. We literally trigger each other on purpose sometimes because we both grew up in chaos. And if things are too good, then that's boring, and we start to lose our feelings for one another. Like she'll start fights with me on purpose sometimes, and then halfway through the fight she'll start grinning and stuff, and I'll be like, "You fucking did that on purpose, didn't you?" And she's like, "Yeah, you got me." And
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, a lot of
like,
them do.
"Okay, you got me."
They
And then
do.
we
They
just
do
hug
say
it
that.
out.
They do.
Yeah,
Well,
they
because I
do.
mean, with
They start
borderline
on
women I've
purpose.
dated, they've said to me, like the guys didn't fight them back or start fights. They would just get bored to tears.
Oh, absolutely.
They would need
You
that emotional roller
Mhm.
coaster.
You also can't. You also got to have firm boundaries in certain things that you set up. Because I mean, like if I were to let her run all over me, I mean that'd be
Lose
great for
respect for
her,
you.
right? She'll leave
Nah,
me.
she'd lose respect for you.
She'll lose respect for me. She'll leave me. She would.
No.
And even if she's like serious, like if she's mad and she's super serious about what she's mad about, I've actually brought that up to her. I've been like, girl, you know damn well if I just let you run all over me and do whatever you want, and if I just give in on that, your ass will get bored with me in a couple months and your ass be gone. She'd be like, yeah, you got me. You're right. I know that about her. She knows that about me. Like, how do you make it work with cluster Bs? You get educated. You learn how to control your own emotions. You learn how to be regulated. You learn how to be patient. You learn how to love, man. Because that's really what it is. I mean, like I learned this from Lee Hammock. Love is a verb. It describes actions. If I'm being patient with my partner, even though they're pissing me the fuck off, and I know I'm right, but I'm patient and I give a little, that's love. I'm showing them love. Man, a lot of this ain't even disordered shit. It's just human nature and learning how to treat people and treat each other. So it's not that hard. I thought it was, and you know, for decades it was very fucking hard for me to do. But I'm getting way better at
Now,
this.
what would a therapist say to you about dating another cluster B? Would they say, nah, you should be with someone who's a normie? Or do they say, no, it's actually better that you're with someone that's a
They
cluster
tell me I'm
B?
crazy. They tell me I'm crazy, and that I need to not date anyone for a while, and that kind of shit. I gotta go to the bathroom real quick though, so I'm gonna pause again real quick.
Well,
I'll
you know what? I'm
Nobody
getting
wants to hear
kind of
me speak.
tired here myself, so I think we could probably wrap it up here if that's
I
cool
think
with
so
you.
too.
But
I
it's
think
been
so
a
too.
pleasure having you on here, brother.
Hey man, I had a great time. I appreciate it. You did not ambush me like I thought you would, so I
I didn't
appreciate
think you thought I would.
it. Hey man, I always assume everybody's out to get me.
Now, like I said to you before, I said I might disagree, but not ambush. That's a different thing.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, man. All right.
I'll be upfront with you. That's what it'll be. That's how it
Well, I
is.
appreciate it, man. I gotta go to the bathroom real
All
bad.
right, my man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
All right. You guys have a good one.
So long, everybody.
All right. Bye bye.